My cousin started dating right before her college entrance exams, so my aunt asked me to help talk her into breaking up. With my help, she did break up and ended up getting into a top-tier university. The whole family was incredibly grateful to me. Who would have thought her ex-boyfriend's family would suddenly have their property demolished for redevelopment and receive tens of millions in compensation? My cousin was utterly devastated. She dropped out of school and is now crashing at my place. Completely giving up on herself. Chinemo, this is what your family owes me. You have to support me for the rest of my life. My aunt turned on me without a second thought. If you hadn't talked her into breaking up, my daughter would be a wealthy lady by now. My parents are weak and cowardly, only daring to take their anger out on me. This is what you get for meddling in the middle of an argument. My cousin pushed me down the stairs to my death. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my aunt begged me through her tears. A month before my cousin's college entrance exams, my aunt came to our house. She placed a photo of my cousin with a boy in front of our whole family and said, "Xiaoya's grades have been slipping lately." I followed her a few times in secret and found out she's actually dating someone. She lied to me, saying she was going to a classmate's house, but she was actually on a date with a boy. My aunt was so angry her eyes turned red. My parents tried to console her, saying, "What do kids know? It's all just innocent fun." Upon hearing this, my aunt slammed the table and stood up. "What kind of talk is that? Do you think Xiaoya is like your daughter? Our Xiaoya is a good child who's going to get into a top university." My parents gave an awkward smile. I sat to the side, sneering inwardly. Even after my aunt mocked me like that, my parents didn't dare to speak up for me. I'm not the least bit surprised. My mom is a classic enabler, supporting my uncle her whole life. Then my uncle married a fiercely domineering woman, and the whole family leached off us. My dad is a pushover. He'd never stand up for himself when bullied, just offer an ingratiating smile every time. They're all useless, each one worse than the last. When I was a kid, just because my aunt said, "Let Momo stay and keep Xiaoya company," they dumped me at my grandma's house to look after my cousin for 10 whole years. If it weren't for my grandma having a good head on her shoulders and treating me well, who knows what a mess I'd be today. In my past life, I always felt sorry for them, not realizing that those who deserve pity often have their own despicable flaws. They are utterly selfish. Back when my college entrance exam scores were good enough for a top university, they secretly altered my application to force me to stay in this small town. Then, after I graduated, they threatened to harm themselves to pressure me into staying close by, finding an ordinary job just to take care of them. And now, my aunt constantly compares me to my cousin, using me as a cautionary tale of what not to become. Out of respect for my grandmother, I never made a scene. Even in my past life, when my cousin's family bled me dry, I just wanted to move away quietly. Yet, that's how I ended up. This time, I won't show any mercy. Momo, say something. Having been embarrassed by my aunt, my parents looked to me for help too. In my past life, my parents had looked at me the same way for help, because I was the only one in our family who dared to fight back. My aunt lifted her chin and stated her purpose. "Momo, you're closest to Xiaoya. As her cousin, you should talk some sense into her." Her tone wasn't a plea, but a condescending command. "Xiao Yu and I have always been close. We grew up together at our grandmother's house and got along really well. Back then, I thought my cousin was different from her parents, so when I found out her grades had plummeted because of a teenage romance, I agreed to help talk her into breaking up. I gave her the whole talk, weighing all the pros and cons, and eventually, she was persuaded and actually ended the relationship. I tutored her every day, and in the end, she got into her dream university. Because of this, my uncle's family, for once, treated us with kindness. My parents also stood a little taller, praising me for finally doing something right. But 4 months after the college entrance exams, that guy's family suddenly had their property demolished for redevelopment and received tens of millions in compensation. The news reached my uncle's family, and they were absolutely thunderstruck. My cousin called me that very day, crying and saying I had ruined her perfect match. My aunt even stormed into my house, pointed her finger in my face, and accused me of having ulterior motives. "You can't find a man yourself, so you want to sabotage my daughter's chance to become a wealthy lady." My parents didn't dare to say a word to her, but they turned and blamed me instead. "We told you not to meddle. Now your aunt is causing a scene again. You deal with it yourself." My cousin did everything she could to win back her ex-boyfriend. After failing, she was utterly devastated. She gave up on everything, dropped out of school, moved into my house, and expects our family to support her for the rest of her life. That's when I realized she's exactly like her parents. I must have been blind in my past life to have helped such a family of parasites. I picked up the photo again and said with a laugh, they look perfect for each other. Maybe it's my cousin's destiny. 3. My aunt's expression changed instantly as she snatched the photo from my hand. What nonsense are you talking? How could a lowlife like that ever be good enough for my daughter? My parents quickly apologized. Momo is young and doesn't know any better. Please don't take it to heart. They then turned to me and said, Momo, you go pick up Xiaoya from school tonight and have a good talk with her. I stared at my aunt and said with a smile, you're going to have to beg me. My aunt blew her top on the spot. Is that any way to speak to your elder? How did your parents raise you? I shot back with a smile. What kind of elder are you, anyway? You never gave me a red envelope for New Year's, and I even had to pay my own bus fare to go to your house for tutoring. If this is how you act as an elder, you might as well go hang yourself from a tree. Well, if you're not going to beg me, then we have nothing to discuss. You can find someone else to tutor Xiaoya. I thought for a moment and said, the college entrance exam is only a month away. A single tutoring session should cost at least a few hundred yuan. My aunt's face darkened with fury as she snapped. You think you're the only one who can teach? I only gave you a chance because you were the city's top scorer. Don't get a big head about it. She grabbed her bag and stormed off. But not before sneering at my parents. What a fine daughter you've raised. Just as useless as you are, you can't even take a favor when it's handed to you. Don't you dare think about having anything to do with our family from now on. After my aunt left, my parents looked at me with pained expressions and began to scold me. Momo, you are so thoughtless. That's your aunt. How can you talk like that? It took so much effort just to get our two families on decent terms. Oh, give it a rest. I cut them off. You're not satisfied with just fawning over them and getting nothing in return. You have to drag me into it too. What do you take me for? Some kind of pushover? My parents looked utterly shocked, as if they never expected me to say something so cutting. In my past life, I always believed they were being bullied by my aunt's family, and that I was the only one who could protect them, but it turns out they didn't need my protection at all. All they wanted was to groom another servant for my aunt's household for soon. After, my aunt sent a message, asking me to go pick up Xiaoya. My mom quickly tugged at my sleeve. Hurry up, your aunt is giving us a way out. Even if I have to beg you, please, your uncle is my only brother. We can't let this rift become permanent. A thought crossed my mind. I could go, but only if you give me back the necklace my grandmother left me. In my past life, after my grandmother passed away, they hid the necklace she specifically left for me, all to force me to stay by their side. Even on the day I moved out, after turning the whole house upside down, I still couldn't find that necklace. My parents exchanged a glance. Clearly hesitant, I coaxed them gently. Look, I've already found a job here. I'll just marry a local man, have kids, and you can enjoy your golden years. What's there to worry about? We're family. Don't be so petty about it. That's exactly what they said to me in my past life. Back then, my cousin moved into our house, took over my room, forced me to sleep on the sofa, and expected me to support her for the rest of her life. I tried to get my parents to kick my cousin out, but they just said, we're all family, and that I was making too big a deal out of it. Now I'm giving that line right back to them. They had no grounds left to refuse. We'll give you the necklace once Xiaoya breaks up with him, was their best attempt at an excuse. I just smiled and went along with what they said. I arrived at Xiaoya's school gate and spotted her almost immediately. The moment she stepped out, she fell into step beside that boy, walking shoulder to shoulder with him. I trailed behind them, keeping a distance that was neither too close nor too far, just enough to catch their conversation. Xiaoya's voice was sweet and playful as she asked, Cui Pu, how much of your allowance do you have left? I need a new phone. This one never seems to get your messages. 5. The guy next to her chuckled sheepishly. So that's why you've been ignoring me. When I get my allowance next month, I'll buy you a new one. Xiaoya agreed with a smile. The boy asked again, by the way, you still haven't told me how you improved your grades. How did you manage to jump from the middle lower ranks of the class all the way into the top 10? Xiaoya's voice was full of confidence. My cousin has been tutoring me. She was the top scorer in the entire city on her college entrance exam. Chui Pu was instantly filled with envy. That's amazing, I'd love to improve my grades too. Do you think your cousin could tutor me? Xiao Yu suddenly stopped walking, her expression turning serious. You don't understand, she's just book smart and a bit clever, but she's actually rotten to the core. Remember when I told you, we grew up together at our grandmother's house. She was always bad-mouthing me to grandma, making me take the blame for the trouble she caused, and she'd bully me in secret. She's rotten to the core. I really don't want you having anything to do with her. The boy scratched his head. Oh, I see, but I really want to improve my grades. Last time you told me to send you the questions I didn't understand, but you never got back to me. The college entrance exam is in less than a month. My cousin impatiently cut him off. Oh, come on, I promise. Once I get a new phone, I'll be able to help you anytime. From what I know, this Chui Pu has an extremely severe case of hero worship, after he found out my cousin had gone from the bottom of the class to the top 10, he started clinging to her, and when my cousin heard he got a monthly allowance, she agreed to be with him. Knowing about this, I advised my cousin not to fixate on such a small amount of money. Once she gets into a good university and lands a decent job, she'll earn much more. On top of that, Chui Pu's living expenses had been nearly spent by my cousin, which is why she finally agreed to the breakup. I stepped forward, placing myself between the two of them. What's all the chatter about? Seems lively. 6. My cousin was startled, taking 2 quick steps back. Cousin, what are you doing here? Before I could say a word, Chui Pu stepped in front of my cousin as if facing a formidable enemy. What do you want? I raised an eyebrow. What's that supposed to mean? Chui Pu said sternly. I won't let you bully Xiao Yu. My cousin panicked, quickly tugging at Chui Pu's sleeve to stop him from saying more, but Chui Pu grew even more agitated. Wasn't it enough that you bullied Xiao Yu at grandma's house? You're going to keep it up now. Don't think tutoring her now makes up for how you hurt her before. I looked shocked and a little hurt. Oh my god, Xiaoya, what have you been telling him about me? I thought we were close. Chui Pu looked at his cousin with an air of righteous concern. Xiaoya, if something's bothering you, you should say it. Chui Pu's outburst was so dramatic that the surrounding students stopped in their tracks and turned to stare. Her cousin's face flushed bright red with utter embarrassment. She forced a stiff smile and said, I was just joking, my cousin is really nice. She's been tutoring me for free. Chui Pu was taken aback. Then why did you lie to me? Her cousin closed her eyes briefly. I just wanted you to feel sorry for me. I sighed. Xiao Yu, I'm so disappointed in you. Have you forgotten when you stole grandma's money, pinned the blame on me, and after she found out, you almost got sent away? I still have that handwritten promise you made back then. If grandma were still here, seeing you turn back into a little liar, how heartbroken she would be. At the mention of grandma, my cousin's face fell. We were both raised by grandma. When she first came to live with her, she was the spitting image of our aunt, both foolish and mean. Later, under grandma's guidance, she seemed much more normal, but after grandma passed away, she slipped right back into her old ways. My cousin's face flushed with a mix of embarrassment and anger. I should go home, she stammered. My cousin hastily fled the crowd. I let out a scornful laugh. No rush. Her happy days are yet to come. I turned to leave, only to realize someone was following me. After being followed for a whole block, I suddenly stopped and asked, Can I help you? Trip's face flushed red. Sis, I was wrong about you. I'm sorry. I couldn't be bothered to make a big deal out of it and just waved my hand. You're forgiven. Anything else? Chui Pu's eyes lit up. Yes, sis, could you help me with my studies? 7. I heard Xiao Yu is improving so fast because you've been tutoring her. I want to improve my grades too. Could you help me? Sis, I get 1,000 a month for living expenses, plus 500 for food. I can just eat steamed buns and pickles every day and give you all the money I save. I let out a short laugh. Sorry, but I'm not running a charity here. The reason I was willing to tutor Xiaoya for free before was that I always thought she was different from her parents, and we had the bond of growing up together. I'm done offering free help to anyone. I'm tired of watching people trample all over my goodwill. You know what tutoring rates are these days. Do you really think this amount is enough? Besides, your current grades didn't happen overnight. Isn't it a bit late to suddenly care about studying now? Trip pressed his lips together. I was just drifting along before. Never really wanted to study hard, and couldn't find any meaning in it. Then last month, my grandmother became critically ill. She raised me all these years, and she said she really wanted to see the day I got into university and became the first college student in our family, but she doesn't know. I can't possibly get into university, Chui Pu sniffled, offering a goofy, foolish smile. I'm really sorry about today. I was out of line, sis. He turned and walked away, head bowed. I watched his retreating figure, feeling a bit stunned based on my cousin's description. I'd always thought he was a good-for-nothing, arrogant little punk. I never expected him to be such a refreshingly normal person. What he said also reminded me of my grandmother. That stern-faced little old lady looked at me with immense tenderness on her deathbed, took my hand, and said, "Even though I won't be here to see you get into university, I know my Momo will be the very best." They have always believed that their child is the best in the world. Wait a second, I suddenly looked up and called out to Trip, "I can tutor you, but I'm not going to work for free. You need to give me an IOU. You owe me for the tutoring, and you have to pay me back when you have the money." I can't wait to see the look on my aunt and her family's faces when they find out that the good-for-nothing they always talked about not only got millions in relocation compensation but also got into a top university. What will their reaction be? I wonder. Chui Pu's face lit up with joy. I'll definitely pay you back. I thought for a moment. Let's make it a 1-year deadline. Anyway, his family's place is getting demolished in 4 months. He won't be short on my little bit of money. Chui Pu responded with a serious expression. Thank you, sis. I'll get a part-time job once I start university. I'll definitely save up enough within the year. I couldn't help but think that fortune favors the simple-minded. He has no idea a windfall is about to drop right into his lap. Wait, a windfall? Does that mean I can get a piece of the pie too? My eyes suddenly lit up. Is anyone selling a house near you? 8. I started tutoring Trip every night. He's not stupid, but his foundation is just too weak. A top-tier university is out of the question, but with some hard work, he could still get into a decent one. As for my cousin, I've completely washed my hands of that. My uncle finally couldn't hold back and called me, "Momo, why haven't you been coming over to tutor Xiaoya lately?" I said calmly, "Oh, I've been thinking about getting a new phone, so I picked up a part-time job." My uncle said dismissively, "It's just a phone, isn't it? I'll buy you one after Xiaoya's college entrance exams are over." I smiled. Couldn't he even make a proper empty promise? "No, thank you, I can buy it with my own money." My uncle quickly backtracked. "How about we buy it in the next couple of days?" I feigned confusion. "Last time, Auntie said Xiaoya would be fine without me anyway. You could just hire a tutor directly. Why bother asking me to go?" My uncle sighed. After all, a tutor is an outsider. They probably won't put their heart into teaching Xiaoyu. How can they compare to family? I just smiled. The moment I heard that, I knew they had figured out the going rate for tutors and realized the true value of the work I'd been putting in. Finding another tutor as dedicated, responsible, and affordable as me, they'd be dreaming. My uncle on the other end of the line was still patiently trying to persuade me. I held the phone away from my ear. "Oh, the signal on this old phone is terrible. I think I'm losing you. Let's talk about it after I get a new phone." That evening, the moment I walked through the door, my parents excitedly said, "Look, your uncle bought you a phone. You were always saying your uncle's family was a burden, leeching off us. Now see how good he is to you. Aren't you ashamed?" I took the phone, looking completely serious. "Then I must repay their kindness properly in the future. Here's an idea. I'll take care of them in their old age, and you two can just adopt another kid." My parents' expressions changed instantly. "That's not what we meant." 9. The next day, I went to tutor Chui Pu. Chui Pu immediately noticed the phone. "Wow, sis, you got a new phone." I chuckled. "It wasn't bought. It was a gift from your ex-girlfriend's parents." Chui Pu was taken aback. "Ex-girlfriend? When did I ever have an ex-girlfriend?" I paused. "Weren't you and Xiaoya in a puppy love thing? Then why were you giving her money?" Chui Pu looked dazed. "No way. I gave her money, and she helped me improve my grades." It suddenly dawned on me, in my past life, it was because my aunt and I jumped to the conclusion that Xiaoyu was in a puppy love relationship that I ended up advising her to break up. And Xiaoyu just went along with our assumption because she was afraid that if I found out she had scammed him out of money, I would force her To pay it back, in the photo my aunt produced, they weren't even holding hands. They were just standing a bit close to each other. Cui Pu had always believed the money he gave Xiao Yu was for tutoring fees. No wonder, in their past life, no matter how desperately Xiao Yu pleaded to get back together, Cui Pu never agreed, so they were never actually in a relationship back then, in his past life. Cui Pu must have been utterly bewildered by Xiao Yu's attempt to reconcile, after piecing the whole story together. I sighed and said, I was wrong to blame you. Cui Pu shook his head. I'll buy you the latest model phone next time. Sis, that's good, this kid really knows how to be grateful. Sighing with emotion, I took out my phone and pressed record. Here, say it again into the phone. Cui Pu obediently repeated it. Just then, my uncle called again. Hey Momo, how are you getting on with the new phone? I fiddled with my hair. It's alright, I guess. It's not the latest model, so I'm not exactly thrilled with it. My uncle paused, ignoring my comment, and continued, Xiaoya has a few questions she can't figure out. When do you think you could come over and help her? I said awkwardly. I can't, uncle, I don't have time right now. Didn't I tell you I'm working a part-time job? My uncle was puzzled. Didn't I buy you a phone? Why are you taking on a part-time job? I said with a grin. Well, I want to save up for a new computer. An angry, shouting voice came through the phone, and I held it away from my ear. Cui Pu turned to look at me with a shocked expression, and I gestured for him to get back to his work. I waited until my uncle had tired himself out from scolding before bringing the phone closer and saying helplessly, Uncle, what's all this about? I never said I wouldn't teach him. My uncle's tone suddenly softened. That was rash of me just now. So when are you coming? I said slowly. I'll head over once I finish my part-time job. I should be able to go over and tutor Xiaoya in about a month or so. A whole month. Uncle's voice was filled with despair. Xiaoya's already finished her college entrance exams. What's the point of tutoring now? It's useless, I said with a hint of hurt in my voice. But I really want a new computer, my uncle said through gritted teeth. I'll buy it for you, but you have to come back and tutor Xiao Yu properly. I agreed readily. Sure, no problem. 10. After my uncle bought me the computer, I went right back to tutoring my cousin. They were worried I might slack off at first, but I ended up being more dedicated than ever. I even drew up a minute-by-minute study schedule for Xiaoya. Uncle's family immediately beamed with joy. I added with a serious face, this period is crucial. Xiao Yu's nutrition must be up to par, whether it's durian or cherries. I have to make sure she eats them. I brought the fruit inside, scrolling on my phone while eating. Xiao Yu swallowed hard and asked, Isn't there any for me? I said sternly, this is to build your willpower, don't worry about it. In the final mock exam before the college entrance exam, Xiao Yu's grades had indeed improved. My uncle's family was even more convinced of my methods. They pulled Xiao Yu over and painted a rosy picture for me. Xiao Yu, you must repay your cousin in the future, I said earnestly. There's no need for repayment. If you don't do well on this exam, you'll have let all my hard work go to waste. What they didn't know was that the final exam was deliberately made very easy, to give the students absolute confidence when they sat for it. As for Xiao Yu's true capabilities, I have the power to help her improve, and I have the power to hold her back. I'm really looking forward to the moment when the college entrance exam results are announced. My uncle personally drove me home and, for once, was actually pleasant to my parents. My parents were overjoyed. Seizing the opportunity, I asked, Didn't you promise to give me back Grandma's necklace? How long has it been? When are you going to keep your promise? My parents were instantly speechless. What's the rush? It'll be yours sooner or later anyway. I sighed. Honestly, whether you give it to me or not doesn't matter. I just wanted to remind you. They were taken aback. Remind us of what? I immediately became serious. That necklace is very valuable, according to Grandma. It could sell for tens of thousands. You absolutely must keep it safe. Don't lose it. 11. They exchanged a glance, their eyes slowly lighting up. Momo, could you go buy groceries for Mom? That's right, you've had a rough day. Get some pork ribs. I'll make stewed ribs for you tonight. I guessed what they were up to, so I obediently left the house. Half an hour later, I came home with the pork ribs, and my parents happily cooked them for me. After dinner, while they went downstairs for a walk, I retrieved the pinhole camera from the bookshelf. After loading the video on my computer, I indeed saw them wandering around the room, holding a jewelry box. Where should we hide it? If we leave it in our bedroom, Momo will definitely go snooping through it. This piece of junk is worth tens of thousands. We absolutely cannot let her find it. Finally, the two of them looked toward the kitchen. I closed the video. I walked into the kitchen and easily found the jewelry box hidden above the range hood. Inside, my grandmother's necklace lay quietly. I gently ran my fingers over the necklace. It was the only keepsake she had left me. I opened the locket, and inside was a photo of my grandmother. "Grandma, I'll be able to take you away with me soon," I murmured, taking out the necklace before placing the box back where it belonged. In the days that followed, I continued tutoring trip. Finally, the day of the college entrance exams arrived. While my parents were away cheering on my cousin for her college entrance exams, I hired a moving company. Within 3 hours, they had cleared out every last one of my belongings. Immediately after, I quit my job, swapped out my SIM card, and vanished from home without a trace. That evening, hearing the gate of the neighboring courtyard open, I paused washing the vegetables and opened my door. "Choi, huh?" Trip jolted his head around in shock, peering over the low wall. He froze the instant he saw it was me. "Sis, what are you doing next door to my house?" 12. "Didn't I ask you last time if there were any houses for sale around here?" Choi snapped back to attention. "Oh, right, so you bought this one, sis." I nodded. "Not just this one, the two to the west as well. I thought all these little bungalows near your place were quite suitable, so I bought them all." Choi Poo was stunned. "Sis, even though the houses here are cheap, none have sold in ages. Aren't you afraid of taking a loss?" Hearing this, I chuckled. "Your big sister here never makes a bad deal." I patted his shoulder with a smile. "Fortune favors the simple-minded. You'll understand one day." Choi Poo nodded blankly. I asked again, "How did the first day of the Gaokao go?" Choi Poo replied with full confidence, "I think I nailed it. I'm sure I got at least 300 points. Did you write this with your feet?" I stared at him with a complicated look in my eyes for a moment. "If he really scores 300 points, I won't charge him for the tutoring." Choi Poo chuckled foolishly. "Wasn't I just being conservative with my estimate? Oh well, as long as the kid is happy." 3 days later, the college entrance exams concluded, and I received a court summons. My own parents sued me. The charge was theft. After they realized I'd vanished into thin air, they immediately went to check on the necklace, and sure enough, it was gone. They pulled every string and called in every favor to try and find me, but I hadn't left them a single clue to follow, so they took me to court, accusing me of stealing a necklace worth tens of thousands. On the day of the hearing, I wore that necklace around my neck and swaggered into the courthouse. My parents, sitting in the plaintiff's seats, jumped up the moment they saw the necklace. "That's the one," they shouted. My father glared at me with pure venom. "How dare you show your face here?" My mother was both furious and heartbroken. "That cost tens of thousands, and you're just wearing it like it's nothing." I chuckled. "Are you sure it's this necklace?" "Absolutely sure." My parents turned to the judge, wailing and crying, "Your Honor, we beg you to give us justice. Not only is she unfilial, but she also stole the necklace my mother left me. That necklace is worth tens of thousands." The judge, having reached his limit, bellowed, "Order in the court." I raised an eyebrow and said, unhurriedly, "First, this necklace was left to me by my grandmother. I have a recording, and you all admitted to it yourselves. Second," I smiled, "this necklace is only worth 85 bucks. You know." 13, "No way, but you said it was worth tens of thousands." My parents shrieked, practically lunging to snatch the necklace from me. The judge finally lost his patience and bellowed, "Order in the court." After they confirmed the necklace around my neck was indeed the missing one, it was sent to a lab for examination. The results came back quickly. I was right. That necklace wasn't worth 100 bucks. My parents were stunned, whether someone gave them good advice or not. My parents dropped the lawsuit the moment they heard the outcome, but did they really think I just let it go? I hired a seasoned lawyer and countersued my parents for defamation. They falsely accused me of stealing something worth tens of thousands. Not only was that item not worth anywhere near that much, but it was rightfully mine to begin with. Their slander has really gotten to me. I can't sleep at night and I've lost my appetite. What's more, they never paid a cent in child support all those years my grandmother raised me. My parents started begging me, "Momo, we're your birth parents. Do things really have to come to this?" I said with a deadpan expression. "I can't believe you have the nerve to say that. If this is what being a parent looks like, you might as well run headfirst into a wall. Their faces darkened completely. Chinemo, you're such an ungrateful wretch. Raising you was a worse investment than raising a dog. I sneered back. Did you raise me? It was Grandma who raised me. My mother glared at me through gritted teeth. Your grandmother is just too soft-hearted. If your grandfather were alive today, he would have beaten you from childhood till now. Let's see how arrogant you'd be then. I had heard about the existence of my grandfather from my grandmother. My grandfather was an abusive man. After my grandmother gave birth to a son, his true nature began to show. My grandmother fought desperately for a divorce, hoping to take both children with her. However, the children believed that as a woman, their grandmother couldn't earn enough money, so they both chose to stay with their grandfather and refused to go with her. It wasn't until several years later, when their grandfather was beaten to death over gambling debts, that the two children finally returned to their grandmother's side. Back then, Grandma realized the two children's personalities had become warped. She tried desperately to set them straight, but in the end, she failed, and now, Mom actually brings up Grandpa again, seemingly still proud of that domestic abuser's actions. 14. I gave them a long, deep look, my eyes utterly cold. Thank you for saying that. I will see this lawsuit through to the very end. Before my college entrance exam results came out, my lawsuit reached a conclusion first. They were detained for defamation and ordered to pay all the back child support they owed. What I wanted was never the child support. I just want justice for my grandmother and me, to support her two children. My resilient grandmother worked 3 jobs all by herself and endured immense hardship, yet, in the end, she was deemed less worthy than the abusive man who fed them scraps and cast a shadow over the family. Soon after the college entrance exam results were released, Chui Pu came knocking at my door, shouting excitedly all the way, "Sis, look at my score." He didn't even wait for me to open the door, just hopped over the fence and eagerly showed me the score on his phone. 501 points, sis, I got 501 points. I couldn't help but smile. It wasn't the score I was hoping for, but for Trip, it's a fantastic result. I'm not just going to college, I'm getting into a top-tier university. Trip cheered and spun around in circles for a good while before finally stopping, his eyes shining as he looked at me. "Sis, will you come with me to the hospital? I want Grandma to see who taught me so well." It wasn't a difficult request, so I agreed with a smile. Trip took me to the hospital, where he proudly showed his test scores to his grandmother. Lying in bed, connected to a ventilator, was a frail, wrinkled old woman whose face lit up with a beaming smile. Yes, yes, looking at her, I was reminded of my grandmother from years past. If my grandmother could have seen the day I got into university, she would have been just as happy. The elderly lady's hand trembled as she shook mine, yet the warmth from her frail fingers melted into my palm, sending gentle ripples through me. I think I made the right choice this time. 15. I found out about Xiao Yu's Gaokao score from Trip. Her performance on the practice exams was so poor that it completely shattered her confidence for the actual Gaokao. She only scored a little over 400 points. Her dream of getting into that top-tier university is completely shattered. Rumor has it she's at home every day now, crying and begging to drop out, while her uncle and aunt plead with her not to give up. She wants to repeat the year, but she doesn't have the courage, yet the thought of not repeating the year fills her with regret. A month later, the acceptance letter arrived. She had been assigned to a school and a major she didn't like. Her uncle and aunt pressured her until she reluctantly agreed to go. Meanwhile, Chui Pu vanished right after submitting his college preferences. When she saw him again, he was several shades darker from the sun. I almost didn't recognize him. "Trip, where have you been this past month?" Trip grinned, making his face look even darker. "I've been delivering food, made $6,000 this month. Sis, I'll give you 3,000 first. I'm keeping the rest for my tuition. I'll pay you back for the tutoring fees slowly. Don't worry about it." I feel both relieved and helpless. Should have asked Trip about his holiday plans in advance. Trip is a hard-working kid even without the compensation money. I'm sure he'll do just fine through his own efforts. There's still over a month of vacation left. "What are you planning to do?" Trip said with a serious look. "Of course, I'll keep delivering food. I'm aiming to get my sister a new phone before school starts." He still remembers that promise. "I just got a new phone not long ago. I don't need one. Why don't you go keep your grandmother company at the hospital? You can use your free time to get your driver's license." Trip blinked. My driver's license. Do I really need one? I don't even know when I'll be able to afford a car. I smiled mysteriously. Don't worry. It'll come in handy before you know it. 16. Choi started school. I told him to focus on his studies, and that I'd take care of things at the hospital regularly. In the end, Choi couldn't bear to be too far from his grandmother. He chose a university close to home so he could visit every weekend. One weekend, about a month into the semester, Choi called me the moment he got home. Sis, someone scribbled all over my wall. I tried not to laugh. What did they draw? Choi Poo replied. The character for demolish. I couldn't hold back my laughter any longer. You silly boy, this isn't just scribbles. It's a goldmine. Only then did Choi Poo catch on, his voice tinged with disbelief. Is this for real? Check your bank account balance in a little while, and you'll know if it's real or not. News of the impending demolition in the area had spread, and Uncle's family had caught wind of it. Same old story as last time. Xiaoya went to Choi Poo's house, begging him to get back together with her. Choi Poo was completely baffled. When were we ever in a relationship? I always listened to my grandma. I would never date so young. Xiaoya, along with her parents, made a scene for several days, even going so far as to show up at Choi Poo's school. Choi Poo was utterly fed up. Sis, what should I do? I raised an eyebrow. Isn't she in school too? Choi Poo suddenly had a flash of insight. He rounded up a few people to hang a banner at Xiao Yu's school. I never actually dated you. The incident became the talk of the school, and in a fit of anger, Xiao Yu decided to drop out, just like in her past life. She fell into a deep depression and stayed at home, but this time, it was my uncle and aunt who were being bled dry. Every day, they pleaded with Xiaoya to either go back to school or find a job. Xiaoya carried on with her carefree life of leisure, treating their words as nothing but background noise. After receiving the demolition compensation, Choi Poo and I looked at the long string of zeros in our account balance and bought adjacent beachfront villas. He transferred his grandmother to a better medical facility. Her condition gradually stabilized, and she was able to come off the ventilator. Just before the spring festival, half a year later, Choi Poo's grandmother was discharged from the hospital. He drove me there himself to pick her up. See, I told you getting your driver's license would come in handy. Choi Poo chuckled sheepishly. You're the best, sis. We shared a lunar New Year's Eve dinner together. Fireworks bloomed in the sky outside. We stood in front of the yard, watching the waves shatter the moonlight. I'm planning to travel the world for a while, I said softly. Trip nodded eagerly. Then you must remember to send us photos, sis. I smiled in agreement, my fingers brushing against the necklace at my throat. It seemed to come alive with the rhythm of the tide, trembling softly in my hand. Grandma, can you see? I've taken you away from that place. I'll take you to more places in the future. To see so many beautiful sights. Those wonderful things are what you and I were meant to see. The end. Story 2. I was the most prized princess of the dragon clan, yet at the royal spouse selection ceremony, I shocked everyone by choosing a lowly crow slave with feeble cultivation. My parents were hopping mad, secretly cursing my disgraceful choice, but only I knew that Cade, the phoenix our clan so admired, was truly rotten to the core. In my past life, after forming a bond with Cade, I gave him my undivided devotion, yet he scorned me for failing to bear children while secretly carrying on with my cousin Tempest. When Tempest's pregnancy could no longer be concealed, he finally resolved to orchestrate my demise. Little did he know, as a reawakened primordial dragon, our childlessness stemmed from his unworthy bloodline. When my eyes reopened, I found myself back at the suitor selection ceremony, before the assembled crowd, my finger pointed decisively behind him. One. As my finger pointed toward him again, the jade-faced man in brocade robes flashed a look of disgust before boldly turning his gaze to my cousin Tempest. Phoenix Cade wishes to form a marital bond with Dragon Clan's third princess Tempest of the Azure Dragon lineage. The declaration left the entire hall in stunned silence. Though the Phoenix and Dragon Clans possessed profound cultivation, their fertility remained low. To strengthen their bloodlines, the two ancient clans had agreed a millennium ago to intermarry with other races, to ensure the purity of our bloodline. Only those with the highest cultivation or purest lineage are eligible to be chosen as consorts, yet everyone in both clans knows Cade was the groom my father personally selected for me. Had he truly objected, he could have spoken sooner. but to publicly renounce his pledge on the very day of selection. This is nothing less than a slap to our dragon clan's dignity. As expected, father erupted in fury. Outrageous. What do you phoenixes take our dragon clan for? A marketplace where you casually pick and choose brides. The eastern sky darkened under father's influence, with thunderclouds gathering and lightning crackling. Seeing father's expression darken, Cade immediately knelt before both clans and pleaded earnestly. The phoenix dragon marriage tradition has always followed fate's decree. My heart belongs to Princess Tempest of the Azure Dragons. I beg the dragon patriarch's blessing. At these words, the dragon elders' faces turned stormy, though Uncle Third and Cousin Tempest hid secret smiles. In previous years, only after the eldest princesses chose their consorts would others have their turn. Among the younger generation of the Phoenix clan, Cade possessed the highest cultivation, yet he rejected me and chose the normally reticent Azure Dragon Princess instead. Third uncle got an undeserved windfall. Who wouldn't be delighted in his place? But this time, I must say their celebration was premature. The Dragonkin have always been prideful bloodline purists. Cade's decision wasn't just a slap to father and me, it humiliated our entire dragon lineage. Father's face darkened further as spiritual energy gathered ominously in his palm, ready to strike. Before the Phoenix elder could speak, third uncle stepped forward to intervene. Elder brother, young love is hard to restrain, since Cade has set his heart on our Tempest, who is after all a dragon princess. This match isn't improper. Why such fury? Third uncle's joy over the proposed marriage had clearly clouded his judgment. The moment Cade refused, this ceased to be a simple betrothal and became a clash between two great clans. Not only is he blind to the obvious, but he's even siding with outsiders against his own. Cade smiled and said, Uncle Long is right. My affection for Tempest isn't unreasonable. Why shouldn't I form a bond with her? Besides, the young princess is spoiled and unruly, far inferior to the Azure Dragon Princess. As the Phoenix clan's finest, I naturally seek a bond with someone who truly suits me. I find the third Princess Tempest most agreeable to my heart. Cade's honeyed words made Cousin Tempest blush crimson, while I sat rigidly at the head of the table, sick to my stomach. Would he have chosen my inferior cousin if he didn't believe me barren? In our past life, when father arranged the marriage, both Phoenix and Dragon clans rejoiced. Cade raised no objection, and we shared years of marital harmony after our bonding ceremony. Yet within mere 28 years, he'd secretly seduced that precious cousin of mine. By the time I discovered their affair, her belly had already swelled with child. Cornered, the pair chose annihilation over shame. Slipping spirit-dissolving powder into my meals, they ambushed and imprisoned me, flayed my scales and tendons, draining my dragon blood to nourish the child in my cousin's womb. His words from that day still pierce my flesh like a dagger, their venom undimmed across 2 lifetimes. Don't blame me, Onyx. What use is a dragon princess who can't even bear an heir after 20 years? Tempest and I share true affection, she conceived within months. As my wife, surely you'll gladly aid your husband with your dragon's blood, too. The agony of being skinned alive still lingers. I shake my head, pulling myself back from the memories. The clan leader was still locked in a standoff with the Phoenix tribe, on the verge of losing control. I tugged gently at father's sleeve and sent a mental message. Father, rather than arguing with them, we should demand compensation. The Phoenix tribe's primordial nectar would serve us well. A single drop of Phoenix nectar takes a decade to form, capable of purging impurities and reforging one's essence. Father furrowed his brows, but I winked at father, and seeing I was unharmed, he gave a slight nod. What, you dare covet our Phoenix clan's sacred treasure, the Phoenix stone? Such audacity. Hearing father speak, the Phoenix elder erupted in rage, taking flight as sparks spewed from his mouth. Cade, who had just been kneeling in tender confession, now raised his head with a glimmer in his eyes. It's merely a marriage proposal to exchange princesses. Surely the Dragon Lord, in his magnanimity, wouldn't fuss over such trivial matters. Wouldn't you agree? The phrasing was cunning. If father dismissed it lightly, it'd signal the Dragon clan could be trampled upon by anyone hereafter. Should father take offense, all realms would know the Dragonkin as petty and intolerant. But this move backfired. My father was the most fearless troublemaker in the Dragon clan back in the day, and he immediately called them out without hesitation. It's barely been a millennium since our clans began intermarrying, and already your Phoenix Juniors dare to publicly humiliate the Dragon clan. Given a few more years, will you be stomping us underfoot? If there's no compensation today, I'll take this as deliberate provocation, a declaration of war. Cade had never seen such a scene and froze on the spot. After much back and forth, the Phoenix Elders finally settled the matter by offering a full vial of primordial spirit due as compensation. Not only did they secure the third princess's hand in marriage, but they also had to compensate with the spirit due. Now, the Phoenix Elders glared at Cade with undisguised contempt. Third uncle was grinning from ear to ear, eagerly pushing Tempest toward Cade with childlike enthusiasm as she passed by. My cousin Tempest gloated like she'd struck gold, sneering, "So what if you're nobler than me, even the Phoenix Clan's young lord won't give you a second glance." I pressed my lips together, putting on a heartbroken facade while secretly laughing my head off inside. In his youth, third uncle was quite the womanizer, but when he finally wanted to settle down, his dragon root had lost its vigor. Left with no choice, he married a fertile spider spirit who bore him just this one offspring. My cousin. I died too young in my past life to see the show. This time, I'll keep my eyes wide open to watch what happens. When my knockoff Azure Dragon cousin meets that low-born Phoenix Cade, will they spawn spiders, or perhaps, more spiders? 3. That damned Phoenix must have taken offense earlier, because now he's circling back to pick a fight with me. Princess Onyx, I'm deeply honored by your affection, but my heart already belongs to another, and I must regretfully decline your generous offer. The moment these words were spoken, the gathered beastkin immediately resumed their gossipy, teasing expressions. A fleeting smirk flashed across the Phoenix Elder's face. My eyes crinkled with amusement as I pointed behind Cade. "Many thanks, young lord, but you seem mistaken. The one I chose was actually that person over there." All eyes followed my finger to a raven slave holding a tray behind Cade, sending gasps through the banquet hall. Cade flushed with humiliation. "What's the meaning of this, Princess Onyx? Are you implying I'm beneath even a raven slave?" Look at him getting all worked up. How pathetic. My smile vanished as I demanded angrily, "What's the meaning of this, young master of the Phoenix clan? Across all realms, countless demon beasts exist with varying cultivation levels. Since when do we judge by bloodline superiority? We dragons respect strength but never belittle the weak. If young Master Cade could choose our third princess, surely I'm entitled to consider the Crow tribe." Infusing my voice with spiritual energy, my words carried undeniable authority, drawing cheers from the smaller tribes watching from a distance. Truly, the dragonkin are extraordinary, even their princess is raised with such noble grace. As the eastern skies cleared, father stroked his beard and cast me an approving glance, his eyes brimming with admiration. Seeing no advantage to gain, Cade shot me a venomous glare. How magnanimous of the princess. My petty mind pales in comparison. "No doubt you'll breed exceptional offspring with this crow slave." I recognized his mockery. In our past life, despite years of marriage, my womb remained barren, prompting Cade to summon the clan's priest, who declared me infertile. Little did he know, I carry ancestral blood. While my appearance mirrors common dragons, my lineage rivals the primordial dragon itself, with Cade's diluted phoenix essence, diluted over who knows how many generations. It'd take him at least 49 years to impregnate me. Spare yourself the concern, young master, you'd do better to mind your own affairs. With a wave, I summoned the crow servant, then cast a meaningful glance at cousin Tempest's belly. I wonder if he'll still be grinning about fertility blessings when my dear cousin births him a whole brood of spiderlings. The raven slave I pointed at shuffled forward trembling. Father wore a stern expression while third uncle recklessly quipped, "Tisk, even if the Phoenix Prince didn't fancy Onyx, that's no reason to settle for some nameless crow." At third uncle's words, he jerked his head up and whispered faintly as a mosquito's hum, "I'm no crow. I have a name, Lucius." I stared in surprise, but he'd already lowered his head again. After I chose my mate, several eligible dragon maidens swiftly selected their long-admired partners from various clans. The magic array activated as I held Lucius' hand, joining the dragon maidens in forming soul bonds with our partners. Thunder roared its approval as the heavenly Tao bore witness. Our covenant was sealed. There's just one thing I don't understand. Normally during a heavenly covenant, both partners should receive spiritual energy feedback from each other. In my past life, Cade's cultivation advanced by a minor realm after we bonded. In this life, my cousin's cultivation has advanced by a major realm. The other dragon maidens and their partners also experience varying degrees of progress in their cultivation. Puzzled, I turned to look at the bowing Lucius while carefully sensing the burning soul contract in my chest. Why haven't we made the slightest progress in our cultivation? Cade sneered sarcastically while tugging at his cousin's sleeve. Princess Onyx's composure is truly beyond my reach, not even a ripple when two bonded cultivators show zero progress in their cultivation. How impressive, ha ha ha, his cousin tittered behind her hand. So what if she's the crown princess? She still ended up with that unwanted crow demon. In my childhood, I scoured ancient texts and learned there are only two scenarios where a cultivation bond shows no visible phenomenon. Either the cultivator's power levels differ too drastically, or they're nearly equal in strength. I gently hooked my pinky with Lucius's, but the timid boy still refused to meet my gaze. Well, given the circumstances, I suppose, never mind, at least my pure lineage ensures the child won't turn out too dreadful. For the betrothal ceremony concluded, Cousin Tempest departed for the Phoenix clan with Cade, while the crow Lucius took residence in the dragon clan. Father always maintains composure before outsiders, but now he's stomping in fury, alternating between scolding and lamenting. Child, why on earth would you choose a crow? Even with your pure bloodline, you can't possibly choose a crow. Your mother wants a fair and handsome grandchild. If you pick some crow spirit, we'll end up with a pitch-black coal ball of a baby. Then we'll really catch hell for it. Watching father pace anxiously, I tried to reassure him. Don't worry, Dad. Didn't mother just return to the celestial realm to visit family? She won't be back for at least 5 or 8 years. By the time I returned to my room after father's scolding, the moon hung high in the midnight sky, with Lucius following silently behind me. Passing through the mulberry grove, his shadow cast by the moonlight strangely appeared to have 3 legs. Upon closer inspection, it returned to normal. Perhaps just a trick of the light. An awkward silence hung in the air. I broke the stillness first. My apologies. The ceremony was urgent. I didn't consider your situation. If you're unwilling, stay with our clan until the trouble passes. I'll escort you back to the Phoenix tribe myself. Lucius hesitated mid-step. My princess, I'm honored, but my cultivation is meager. I fear I'm unworthy of you. Turning to take his hand, I laughed. Sincerity outweighs status. You're worthy if your heart is true. Lucius suddenly looked up, and before I could react, our eyes met. Stunned for a moment, I then said, Lucius, you should hold your head high. Those golden eyes of yours deserve to be seen, not hidden away. Time flew by in the blink of an eye. 3 years had passed when third uncle proudly announced joyous news to the clan. Our Tempest is expecting. Counting the days, it's indeed quite similar to my previous life. A clansman congratulated. Really, congratulations. You're about to have a Phoenix grandchild. Third uncle became even more delighted. The most obvious change was that he no longer glared at me, but instead walked past my door repeatedly with visible joy. But third uncle's happiness didn't last long. The next time I saw him, he was back to glaring at me again. I inquired among the clan and learned that Tempest's life in the Phoenix tribe had been far from easy. The Phoenix king resented her for causing the loss of a vial of spiritual dew even before their bonding ceremony. Sensing the king's disdain, others treated her coldly as well. Cade never cared for her in the first place. He was only interested in her womb, let alone standing up for her. Tempest struggled to survive in the Phoenix tribe, and this hardship only eased after she became pregnant. The Phoenix king and queen placed great hopes on her child, promising Cade that he would become the next Phoenix king if she bore a gifted heir. Cade was overjoyed, pampering his cousin with endless care, showering her chamber with precious elixirs and magical herbs like they were mere trifles. Yet the outcome matched my expectations. Unsurprisingly, my cousin gave birth to a nest of spiderlings. The Phoenix king and queen flew into a rage, selecting another phoenix from their clan to groom as successor. 5. Though he killed me in our past life, I lack proof in this incarnation. Acting recklessly now might spark war between our clans. Learning about their current situation and seeing them punished finally gave me a sense of vindication. To my shock, Cade actually dared to infiltrate the dragon clan. Just as I raised my guard, I saw him charging at me. In that critical moment, I summoned my spiritual energy. And threw a devastating punch. Cade spat blood as he staggered up from the ground, glaring at me with a twisted expression. You knew all along, didn't you? You knew all along that Tempest was descended from spider demons. You set me up on purpose, didn't you? I stood my ground and answered with undisguised contempt. Don't flatter yourself. That Tempest is the offspring of a spider demon and third uncle. It's common knowledge. Everyone knows that. You just couldn't be bothered to ask around. Don't pin this on me. Cade's face turned pale again and again as he protested weakly. But in the previous life, I picked up the thread and voiced the question weighing on his mind. But didn't the clan physician detect the phoenix vein in our past life? Why don't you ask Dragon Tempest how fetal meridians are actually measured? And while you're at it, check the ancient texts. Why did Dragon Tempest demand you nourish our child with my dragon's blood last incarnation? Indeed, in my past life. It wasn't Cade who wanted my dragon's blood, to be precise. Tempest demanded my dragon's blood, and Cade did the deed. What does it matter? Just a pair of despicable lovers. Cade's face cycled through expressions as he muttered, impossible, how could this be? Then stumbled forward unsteadily. I turned my head toward the eaves. Lucius emerged slowly from behind the pillar. Princess, you know him. Did he hurt you? Lucius paused for a moment before slowly embracing me, whispering in my ear, Princess, I'd never harm you. Stay away from him from now on, just stay with me. The words sounded childish, yet they inexplicably warmed my heart. He might be a bit simple-minded, but treats me genuinely well. At nightfall, Lucius returned freshly bathed from the spring, nuzzling against me with puppy-like affection, catching him by the wrist with gentle resistance. I saw tears welling in Lucius' eyes. You still have feelings for him, don't you? That's why you're pushing me away. Gazing steadily into his eyes, I brushed away the teardrop at his lashes. No. I'm afraid you'll regret it. I'd never regret it. You chose me. You're responsible for me now. The brocade curtains fell as whispered endearments grew fervent. By the light of silver candles that burned through the night, every intimate detail appeared exquisite until dawn broke in silence. At first light, Lucius had already groomed himself and was kneeling obediently by the bedside, when I awoke to find him there. My cheeks burned with sudden heat, after Cade fled back to the Phoenix clan. He vanished without a trace, and no word of Tempest ever reached the Dragon clan again. 6. Third uncle crouched in the grand hall wailing like a banshee. She's my only daughter. Her marriage into the Phoenix clan was meant to strengthen our alliance. She's one of our Dragon clan, our people's greatest benefactor. How could you abandon her like this? The shamelessness of third uncle's words was staggering. The whole clan knew he and Tempest had coveted the Phoenix clan's power, but he was right about one thing. Tempest was Dragon clan. If she truly went missing, even Father would have to send scouts under the clan's pressure. Father dispatched 2 dragon envoys to investigate the Phoenix clan. Third uncle rolled his eyes in dissatisfaction, but when the elders slammed the table in protest, he shrank back and quieted down. For the moment, strangely enough, neither of the dispatched dragon envoys returned. Third uncle stirred up trouble again, prompting Father to send another group. Yet none came back either. Sensing something amiss, Father summoned me and the elders at midnight. The Phoenix clan's prolonged silence suggests trouble. With our scouts missing, I must investigate personally. The elders conferred in hushed tones until the third elder objected. The Dragon clan cannot be without its chief. Let this old man investigate instead. The fourth elder quipped with irreverence. Why should the third elder go? Who'll mind the home front? A lone wolf like me is better suited for reconnaissance. The elders whispered among themselves, tugging at sleeves and trouser legs like conspiring schoolchildren. I interjected abruptly, I'll go. I've been there before. I know the terrain. Father froze. When did you ever visit the Phoenix clan? I shot him a cold glance, and he fell silent. The elders tried to argue further, but I'd already turned and walked out the gate, Lucius shadowing me as faithfully as ever. I'm going to the Phoenix clan. I'll go with you. The Phoenix clan isn't safe right now. That's all right. Neither am I. Back then I was still puzzled by what Lucius meant by unsafe, until I witnessed what happened next. After 2 lifetimes, I set foot again on Phoenix clan territory, only to find the vast ancestral grounds eerily deserted. 7. The air carried a faint metallic tang of blood. Lucius and I advanced cautiously until reaching the central plaza. Where my cousin Tempest's mocking voice suddenly rang out, "Look how the precious crown princess has fallen into my hands after all." Raising my eyes, I saw Tempest devoid of any draconic aura, just a monstrous, hideous spider looming in the distance. I gasped, "What happened to you?" My cousin snarled through clenched teeth, "How dare you ask? It's all because of your meddling." The moment Cade returned, he interrogated and tortured me. "You deserve to die." Then her tone shifted playfully, "But thanks to you, I regained my lost memories and awakened my mother's tarantula bloodline. Look, now the entire Phoenix clan is my prey." As her words faded, the barrier dissipated, revealing the missing Phoenix clan members, each hanging upside down from spiderwebs, countless arachnids crawling over the silken threads. Cade stood out most, his body covered in wounds and emaciated to the bone, clearly having endured brutal torture. "Where are the Phoenix King and Queen?" Tempest's face twisted with malice. "What king and queen? Those useless old birds, devoured long ago. But don't worry, little sister, your turn comes soon enough." Without warning, she gave the command, and the spiderlings on the web began spewing genuine phoenix flames from their mouths. I dodged frantically. What the hell has Cade done? Tempest's offspring actually inherited his abilities. No wonder the mighty phoenixes were captured, their entire clan taken without a sound. Seeing me dodge, Tempest grew even more frenzied. "You wretch, how dare you evade me? Why were you born superior to me? Why must I watch helplessly as my mother dies in agony? After all my struggles to win the Phoenix clan's favor, you still scheme to ruin my life. Are you happy now, seeing me like this? I want you dead, I want you dead." More and more spiderlings were swarming toward us. The struggle became increasingly difficult, and in a moment of distraction, flames licked at my arm. Seeing me injured, Lucius rushed to shield me in his arms without a second thought for himself. Countless tiny flames came flying toward me. I screamed in panic, "No, don't." The flames landed squarely on Lucius, instantly charring his clothes and flesh to reveal golden armor beneath. As I focused my gaze, I realized the small flames had merely scorched his garments. Even the fire licking my arm extinguished with Lucius's gentle pat. In a flash of golden light, he appeared before me, radiant in gilded armor, standing upon auspicious clouds. "Fear not, princess. I shall protect you." Startled awake by the golden radiance, Cade stared blankly at Lucius with utter disbelief. "The great sun, golden crow, how is this possible?" Cousin Tempest covered her eyes and shrieked, "Even the heavenly Tao protects you. This isn't fair. This isn't fair. I was so close. Why must you do this to me?" With a casual flick of his hand, Lucius unleashed even fiercer flames that engulfed Cousin Tempest and the spiderlings. They writhed in agony before turning to ashes. The inferno raged onward, consuming the Phoenix clan members trapped in the webbing. From the flames rose the reborn phoenix, painting the sky crimson with its fiery rebirth. Lucius suddenly turned his head. "Your Highness, are the fireworks beautiful? Using the Phoenix clan as fireworks? How could you even suggest such a thing?" I could tell Lucius was joking. The solar true flame was only meant to aid the Phoenix's rebirth and preserve lives. I'd suspected Lucius's true identity, but never imagined he was actually the great solar golden crow, sovereign of all avian kind. The Phoenix clan narrowly escaped annihilation. Lucius regained his true form and was immediately summoned back to the sun god's palace. 8. In the Phoenix clan's dungeon, I discovered the missing dragon attendants and third uncle who vanished 2 days prior. Cade descended from the sky, his expression unreadable as he looked at me. "Onyx, thank you. I regret it. I wronged you by being so obsessed with having an heir. If only I'd treated you properly after we got married." I cut off his pointless rambling yet again. "What's done cannot be undone. There are no what-ifs in this world for those who live with regret. As for heirs, perhaps I neglected to mention, I carry the bloodline of the primordial dragon. Offspring never come easily to our kind, but grant me 4 times 9 cycles, and even I may conceive." "You sealed your own fate with that impatience of yours." The full truth struck Cade like a spiritual vacuum, his body crumpling inward as if drained of vitality. Without a backward glance, I rallied my kin and raced toward the ancestral Dragonlands. Any later and we might have bumped into Mother on the way. The moment I brought our clan back to the settlement, Mother descended from the heavens and immediately dragged my unwashed self into some juicy gossip. 9. Little Onyx, come quick. Your mothers brought back the juiciest celestial scandal from the immortal realm. They say the sun god sneaked down to the mortal world, lost his memory, and some maiden stole his, divine essence. Oh dear, you wouldn't believe it, when I returned, that divine lord had just come back in complete disarray. The celestial beings up there were practically dying of laughter at his expense. My face burned crimson at mother's words as I scrambled away in panic. She shouted after me in outrage, "You ungrateful little dragon whelp." My mother was utterly mortifying. Had she not just returned, I'd have sworn she did it on purpose. When mother saw I wouldn't listen, she went running to father instead. Upon learning I'd formed a spiritual bond, and with a crow demon of all creatures, she roared through our ancestral grounds, "Come out here, you insolent hatchling. First you form a bond without permission, then you choose a crow, and to top it off, you dare venture into Phoenix territory alone. Who gave you such audacity?" The fourth elder couldn't stand my mother's scolding anymore and kicked me out of my hiding spot. Every man for himself. "Little Onyx, you're on your own now." This was the scene that greeted Lucius when he arrived with a delegation of deities to propose marriage. The beautiful matriarch, completely disregarding decorum, was pinching the soot-covered little princess's ear while lecturing her in hushed tones. The sun god chuckled awkwardly with my father. Dragon Clan's entertainment certainly knows how to make an impression. Father gave an awkward chuckle. Lucius swooped down beside me and pulled me into a possessive embrace. "My princess, Lucius comes to seek your hand in marriage." I kissed the corner of Lucius' lips with a smile. "Seems this time it's my turn to marry above my station." Lucius shook his head affectionately. "The princess treats me with genuine sincerity. This is no unequal match." After 41 more years, I finally conceived. In the sun god's palace, I anxiously tugged at Lucius' hair. "My love, what kind of child do you think the primordial dragon and golden crow would bear?" Lucius' side story. "Life in heaven was dreadfully dull. My daily routine just involved raising and lowering the sun, so one day, I came up with a clever idea to let the sun rise and set on its own. I sneaked down to the mortal realm for some fun. As I descended, I stumbled when lifting one foot, still unaccustomed to walking on two legs, and banged my head on a platform, wiping all my memories clean. Fortunately, a kind-hearted girl took pity on me and found me a raven's pelt to wear. The moment I put on that raven's skin, I somehow became a lowly crow slave among the Phoenix clan. Watching the girl go from wholehearted devotion to such a tragic end, I couldn't help but feel terribly sorry for her. So I used the time mirror to turn back the clock. When I opened my eyes again, she was pointing straight at me amidst a sea of demons. What can I say? The little lass has excellent taste. I meant to see how far she'd go on her own, but staying by her side softened my heart and I fell for her. What else could I do? Even the sun god can afford to lose face just this once. A small price to pay for a wife, just a bit of wounded pride. Time flew by, and before long she was with child. Nervously tugging at my thinning hair, she whispered, "Darling, what kind of child do you think the primordial dragon and golden crow would have?" How should I know? Maybe a three-legged flying dragon, or a golden crow with whiskers, or some chimera like a qilin. Who knows? As long as our child isn't a fire-breathing bird-eating spider, I'm good. Any child of yours would be perfect. Before the Phoenix elder could speak, third uncle had already stepped in to intervene. Onyx and I finally welcomed our child into the world. The little one was plump and fair, though at birth this palm-sized bundle of joy sported an unexpectedly massive pair of dragon horns. Onyx and I stared at those horns, momentarily at a loss for words. For secure document printing with Xiaohubot, choose our BookBot service. Reliable and hassle-free, heavy checkmark, no pitfalls. This, the ancestral dragon lineage truly possesses formidable bloodline power. Onyx covered her eyes, and I quickly comforted her. "It's all right. Look how perfectly these dragon horns have grown. See how much the little one adores them." The little one raised their hand, touching their dragon horns with a giggle. Onyx lowered their hand, resigned to reality. "Oh well, they're still my own flesh and blood." After comforting Onyx, I turned to leave and saw their mother's concerned expression. "See, the baby is perfectly fine. Don't worry, I'll take good care of Onyx and the baby. They won't lack for anything." That's more like it. After seeing Onyx's mother out, I wiped the sweat from my brow and turned to check on my darling wife. Onyx was breastfeeding the baby while I crouched beside her, gently stroking her shoulder. Tired? I'm all right. Onyx played with the baby as I gave her a gentle shoulder massage. What do you think we should name our child? Onyx turned to look at me as I pretended to ponder. Since our child inherits both the ancestral dragon's bloodline and the golden crow's lineage, how about we name them Gage? Onyx burst into laughter and nodded in agreement. All right, you got it, end dash story 2. At first, nobody paid much attention to the disaster, a prolonged heat wave that lasted for days, with temperatures soaring above 45 degrees Celsius. Then came the drought, drying up fields and cutting off lakes. By the time people realized the severity of the situation, it felt as though the apocalypse had arrived. It's unbearably hot this year. How can it be so hot? Yes, it's been over 40 degrees for 3 days straight. It's insane. On my way home from work, pedestrians hurried along, few lingering on the wide roads, all rushing to the shelter of buildings to escape the heat. Stopped at an intersection waiting for the light to change. I glanced at my phone. 5:45 p.m. and it was still 38 degrees, even though it was nearly evening. The sun hadn't set yet, and the relentless heat made it feel like midday. Today's temperature was unusually high. When the light turned green, I hesitated, then turned left instead of going straight home. I decided to head to the city's largest supermarket to stock up on supplies. It was Friday, and the weekend was starting tomorrow. If the weather continued to hover above 40 degrees, I planned to ask for time off work to stay home and keep cool, especially since I had just secured a major project for the company. They should be able to grant me the leave. I charged into the supermarket, heading straight for the fresh produce section, where I bulk bought everyday ingredients, then moved on to the frozen section for some steaks, frozen fish, and shrimp. Passing by the household goods, I noticed a sale on sanitary pads and tampons. On a whim, I grabbed 2 large bags, filling my cart. Do you need help? A shy smiling young store assistant asked. I nodded, handed over my cart, and grabbed another, heading to the canned goods aisle. I picked up 2 cans of each variety, then swept through the snacks aisle, grabbing seeds and chips. Would you like to buy some beverages? We have a discounted combo of large Coke and Sprite bottles for just 9 yuan, he suggested. It made sense, although I usually opt for healthier options and seldom drink sodas. Chips without Coke seemed incomplete. I picked up 5 combo packs, totaling 10 bottles, and asked the young assistant to help load 2 cases of bottled water, filling a third cart. I thought I was done, but on my way out, passing the grain section, I suddenly remembered I was almost out of rice at home. I continued to trouble the young assistant, asking him to carry 2 bags of rice while I stuffed 5 packs of instant noodles into the gaps of the second cart. With that, 3 shopping carts were packed full. The total came to 13.21, 8 yuan. Do you need delivery? The assistant asked again. I shook my head. No, just help me get these to the car. Are you sure? It's quite heavy. He seemed eager to assist further, but I declined, only having him load everything into my spacious trunk. As I closed the trunk, the young assistant sighed, though I hardly noticed, and drove straight home. After divorcing my husband 5 years ago, I embarked on a 6-month journey of random travel, ultimately settling in this laid-back third-tier city, leaving behind everything familiar. Now, I live alone in a high-end residential area in the suburbs, on the 16th floor. Not too high or too low, in an apartment with 2 units per floor and a private security door. Perhaps because of different activity schedules, the soundproofing in my apartment is so effective that I've never even met another neighbor on this floor. The only hint of their presence is the occasional umbrella left at the elevator entrance, signaling that other people do live here. I parked my car in the lot and made 3 trips to haul all my groceries to the elevator. Once I reached my apartment, it took me another 15 minutes to sort everything out and store it all in my large freezer and refrigerator. After the neighborhood was locked down once during the pandemic, I bought a large freezer. Now, it's filled to about 80% capacity. 1/3 of it is stocked with ice cream, with the rest occupied by frozen chicken, duck, and various animal organs, plus half a side of pork. These were all sent from my hometown where my parents lease a mountain. They enjoy raising chickens, ducks, and pigs there and often send me frozen goods, which just keep accumulating. I added steaks, frozen fish, and shrimp to the freezer, filling it up to 90% capacity. I thought to myself that even if a sudden pandemic led to another lockdown, I'd have enough meat to last 2 months. Ding, while I was stuffing some drinks into the fridge, my phone beeped with a message. Glancing at it, I saw a red high-temperature warning from the city's meteorological bureau, displaying a glaring 41 degrees C. Tomorrow, the temperature in the city will reach a new high of over 41 degrees. Residents are advised to avoid going out between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. If you have elderly or children at home. 41 degrees. I couldn't help but curse. I grabbed my phone to start the leave request process through our company's online system, notifying HR in one go. In such scorching weather, I had no intention of going out and getting roasted. I figured I might as well take as much leave as I could, considering the compensatory leave I'd accrued from rushing major projects over the last 6 months. Plus the weekends, I could probably take around 20 days off in one go. Surely it wouldn't still be this hot after 20 days. My leave was approved quickly. After I showered and checked my phone, I saw it had passed. I also had 2 missed calls from my mom, so I called her back. Hello, Mom, Mary, it's really hot over there, isn't it? Don't go outside unless necessary. It's just you there. Heatstroke is no joke. And take some leave from work, you silly girl. You always liked running around even when it was 39 degrees as a child. She rattled off her concerns as soon as I answered. I know, Mom, make sure you both stay cool and don't skimp on the air conditioning. Okay, what air conditioning? Your father and I are up in the mountains. It only reached 35 degrees here today, and we still need blankets at night. You worry about yourself. If you had stayed here, you could have lived in the mountains where it's much cooler. Mom started her usual nagging, which I endured for over 10 minutes before finally finding an excuse to hang up. This summer was indeed unusually hot. I opened a box of ice cream and settled comfortably on the sofa, eating it while I turned on the TV. The ongoing heatwave has already resulted in thousands of deaths across Europe, with temperatures in parts of India exceeding 55 degrees. Experts claim such temperatures are no longer suitable for human habitation. As soon as I turned it on, global heatwave news filled the screen. I felt fortunate to live in China, where the air conditioning penetration rate exceeds 100%. Little did I know that in just a few short days, the relentless heat would soon show me what it means to be unfit for human habitation. The following weekend, I blissfully kept my air conditioning on a constant 24-hour cycle, sleeping until I naturally woke up, then spending my days watching shows and playing games at home. When mealtime came, I cooked myself a nice dish and made some soup, comfortably enjoying a vacation at home. Until Monday, I was blissfully asleep when suddenly my phone's ringing woke me up. It was my colleague, Wang Ling. Mary, why aren't you at work today? I've taken leave, a long leave, so you won't see me until next month. I let out a long yawn upon hearing this. Wang Ling sounded shocked. Really? I couldn't believe it when HR said you'd used up all your annual and compensatory leave. Is something going on at home? She is the closest colleague I have at the company. I quickly sat up. It's nothing serious, it's just too hot, and I don't feel like working. I just want to rest a bit. Don't worry, big sister. Skipping work because it's hot. Have you lost your mind? It's not like it's the end of the world. Heatwave apocalypse. Ever heard of that? I chuckled. TSK, I'm so envious you can take leave now. I still have to wrap up a project. Otherwise, I'd take leave too. You know, my hands got sunburned just on my way to the office this morning. Huang Ling complained a bit before hanging up the phone. I glanced at the time, 8:45 a.m. The sun is this fierce already. I got out of bed, drew back the blackout curtains, and opened the window to feel the air, only to be hit by a blast of hot air. Everything outside looked somewhat distorted. Damn, I quickly shut the window and drew the curtains again. This is absurd. It's way too hot. How are people supposed to work outside in this weather? I checked the weather forecast, which showed 39 degrees Celsius, but it refreshed and jumped to 40 degrees, with a forecast indicating a continuing rise. 10 a.m., 41 degrees, 11 a.m., 41 degrees, 12 p.m., 42 degrees, 1 p.m., 43 degrees, 2 p.m., 43 degrees. Is it me who's crazy, or the weather forecast? Yesterday's high was 40 degrees, and today it's going to hit 43. Feeling anxious, I quickly made myself a simple breakfast, cleaned up the trash, and decided to take out the garbage before it got even hotter. As I opened the door, I bumped into Bob from the building management, who had just knocked on my neighbor's door. Great, you're here too, let's listen together. He turned and smiled at me. I smiled back and looked at my neighbor I had never met before. He was a man with slightly long hair and dark circles under his eyes, looking as if he had just woken up. Our eyes met, and we nodded at each other. Here's the situation. Due to the extreme heat, there's a possibility of power outages. Don't panic if it happens. Our complex has solar power backup which takes about 10 minutes to kick in. During this time, please try to conserve electricity and set air conditioners no lower than 26 degrees, Bob explained. Will there be any water cuts? I asked. I'm not sure yet, but I advise storing some drinking water at home. This heat is insane, and unfortunately, we can't guarantee water supply at the moment. I apologize for the inconvenience. Here's a flyer for you to look at. Understood. The man across the hall nodded, took the flyer, and promptly closed the door. He didn't seem very polite. Bob wasn't bothered, though. He handed the flyer to me, and I asked if he wanted to come in for a rest. He declined, saying he needed to notify the building's residents face-to-face as quickly as possible, in case someone missed the notice. Are you throwing this out? Just give it to me, I'll take care of it. He even took the trash I was holding. The property fee of 20 yuan per square meter was indeed well spent. The community's amenities were quite advanced, and the service was both excellent and considerate. After seeing him off, I went back inside and saw on the communication screen by the door a message about possible power outages due to high temperatures, identical to what was on the flyer. If Bob hadn't knocked, I probably wouldn't have noticed. The sound of ambulances and fire trucks seemed unusually frequent today. Sitting on the sofa with the air conditioning on and eating ice cream, I felt a bit guilty. News about various disasters caused by extreme heat began to scroll across the internet. One video made it to the top. It featured a reporter who, for the first 30 seconds, was broadcasting live outdoors without a hat under the scorching sun. At the 31st second, smoke suddenly started coming from his head, and his hair actually caught fire. Thankfully, a crew member quickly extinguished it with a bottle of water. Thank you for the concern. I'm fine. In hot weather, please don't use too much hair wax. And don't work under the sun for too long. That was the top comment. I wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it, but couldn't bring myself to. I had a nagging feeling that the world was heading towards a major crisis. 43 degrees, 44 degrees, 45 degrees. Sure enough, over the next few days, the temperature continued to rise. A week later, the daytime temperature shockingly reached 46 degrees, and even at midnight, it was still 39 degrees. All outdoor work was halted, and nearly all companies switched to remote work, except for a few essential workers who continued to persevere on the front lines. Yesterday's hottest news was about a mother who fell on the road while holding her feverish child, burning all the skin that touched the ground. Today's hottest news was about a heroic electrician who suffered from heatstroke and died while working under the scorching sun. Countless people offered virtual white flowers online. No one used the candle emoji anymore because it was simply too hot. As the high temperatures persisted, multiple areas experienced power issues, and news of heat-related deaths increased. Authorities launched emergency measures, opening all air-conditioned school auditoriums, gyms, and malls as 24-hour cooling centers for those without air conditioning, but the death toll kept rising with the temperature. Hospitals were overwhelmed, and fires were frequent in both cities and rural areas, with countless pleas for help circulating online. Since the holiday started, I had been calling my parents daily to check on their situation, although they were in the mountains. The temperature there had also reached 40 degrees recently. Today, when I spoke to them, I found out they had finally turned on the air conditioning. Mary, don't worry about us. Make sure you turn on your air conditioning and don't worry about the electricity bill. Your parents have money, they urged me. Now they were the ones convincing me to use it. It's on, don't worry, I assured them. Do you have enough to eat? Should we send you some food? We don't know when this disaster will end. My mom said, clearly worried. I have plenty, really, didn't I tell you? I bought a lot of food before my holiday started, enough for 3 months, plus, the property management sends over groceries daily. After ending the call, I took another set of photos of the stockpiled food in my 2 fridges. Due to the severe natural disaster, I've had little appetite these past few days, eating sparingly, even with 2 refrigerators. Only a portion of the fruits and vegetables was used up. After rearranging them, the fridges still appeared to be full, just. After I snapped a photo to send, the TV suddenly went black, and the whole room fell silent. I pressed the light switch a few times, confirming that the power was out. Fortunately, thanks to a prior warning from Bob, the property manager, I wasn't too worried. After the air conditioning stopped, the temperature around me quickly rose, and the air became stifling. Each breath I took felt significantly hotter than the last. Minutes later, drenched in sweat, I hurriedly grabbed an ice cream from the fridge, sat on the floor, and ate it while waiting for the power to come back. The ice cream was gone, and the electricity still hadn't returned. Had another one, still no power. Getting restless, I was about to grab the intercom to call the property management when ding dong, the doorbell rang. Peering through the peephole, I saw the man from across the hall, his eyes dark with fatigue, sweating profusely at my doorstep. Should I open the door? Hesitating, I secured the safety chain and cracked the door open slightly. "What's up?" I asked. The man gestured with something in his hand. Focusing, I saw it was an ice cream. "I just called the property management. They said it'll be another half hour. You must be overheating. Have an ice cream to cool down. I have plenty more if you need," he said, his voice surprisingly pleasant. "Thanks, but I'm fine," I replied, perhaps sensing my caution. He didn't press further, simply setting the ice cream on the shelf by my door before turning to leave. I watched through the door crack as he passed through the security doors and returned to his apartment, closing his door behind him. Maybe he's genuinely kind. Ice cream is a rare commodity in times like these. I opened the door, brought the ice cream inside, and thought for a moment before double bagging it in plastic and placing it in my freezer. I then grabbed another ice cream to eat. After this one, I won't open the freezer again to keep the cold air from escaping. It's really hot. About 20 minutes later, I was sprawled on the floor, panting like a dog. It was hot, and I dared not open the windows for fear it might be hotter outside. 46 degrees Celsius. No, wait, 3:38 p.m. Update successful. I stared in disbelief at the refreshed temperature display on my phone, almost shouting in shock. 48 degrees. It was now 48 degrees. This couldn't be right. I must have seen it wrong. My finger pressed on the screen, pulling down to refresh. 3:39 p.m. Update successful. 3:39 p.m. Update successful. 3:39 p.m. Update successful, but it showed 48 degrees 3 times in a row. Then the screen suddenly changed to a 404 error. I tried to check the weather again, but a notification that the mobile network was disconnected appeared, along with a red exclamation mark. I turned the phone off and on again, only to see that there was no signal on either carrier. It wasn't just the internet. My phone had lost all communication capabilities. The temperature around me is soaring, and it feels like the room is close to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Every breath I take is filled with hot air, making me feel like I'm about to suffocate. I dashed to the door, grabbed the intercom, and pressed the button to call the property management. Beep, beep, beep. After a long wait, no one answered. Had the property management stopped working too? Heat and fear instantly overwhelmed me. The room echoed only with the sound of my breathing. The soundproofing was so good that I couldn't hear anything else. It was as if I were on a deserted island. "Stay calm, Mary, you need to stay calm," talking to myself. I walked to the freezer, yanked it open, and pulled out a duck that had been frozen solid for months. Holding it helped cool me down a bit and brought some calm, allowing me to think about what to do if I suffered heatstroke alone in this room. Heatstroke. What to do for heatstroke, right? Herbal cooling tonic. I opened the medicine cabinet, gulped down a bottle of the tonic, and applied some essential balm on my forehead, neck, and underarms to help dissipate the heat. Then, I grabbed a blanket, soaked it in a large tub of water in the bathroom, and draped it over myself. Having done all I could, I ate an ice cream quickly while continuously glancing at the clock on the wall, regretting not buying a digital clock with a thermometer to know the current temperature indoors. But even knowing the temperature wouldn't change the situation. Beep, beep, beep. I don't know how long it had been, maybe a few minutes, maybe half an hour, but suddenly the intercom buzzed to life. I whipped my head around, nearly straining my neck. "Attention, residents," coughed the voice. "Our city is currently facing a heatwave disaster. The solar panels in our complex have been damaged and we cannot restore electricity at the moment. residents can temporarily seek refuge in the underground parking garage. The temperature on the first underground level is 103.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and on the second level, it's 104 degrees. Of course, the underground parking garage. Why didn't I think of that? Just as I was about to rush out, I thought better of it and grabbed a backpack, swapped the frozen duck for a new one, packed the remaining essential balm and herbal tonic, stuffed in 2 loaves of bread and 3 bottles of water, and re-soaked the blanket before finally opening the door. As I opened my door, the door opposite also opened, and my neighbor, carrying a large backpack, stepped out. What a coincidence, eh? Neighbor I had never met before, and now we meet every time we open our doors since the heat wave started. Come with me, my car's tank is full, he said, approaching me. I instinctively took a step back. Since my divorce, I've been wary of men around me, always instinctively fearful. I mean no harm, you probably have a car too. We can sit in the car and use the air conditioning. If my car runs out of fuel, we can switch to yours. That way, we can hold out a little longer. He looked into my eyes, seeming a bit uneasy. The hallway was hotter than inside. The sunlight streaming through the windows made the air I breathed even hotter, almost blurring my vision. I gasped for air, grabbed the car keys beside the door, and closed it. Okay, let's go. In a natural disaster like this, no one can survive alone. Sticking together is our only chance. I had no choice but to agree with him. My neighbor led the way to the stairwell door, and as he opened it, a rush of cool air greeted us. On the 16th floor, people usually don't take the stairs due to the typically poor ventilation. The normally stifling stairwell was surprisingly cool, and I imagined the basement must be even more comfortable. Driven by a desire to escape the heat, I quickened my pace. Soon, echoes of footsteps filled the stairwell, intermittent and mixed with curses and the cries of children. Other residents, it seemed, had also heard the property management's announcement and were coming out. As I passed the 5th floor, I saw an elderly man with graying hair sitting on the ground against the wall, unresponsive to those passing by. Sir, are you all right? I stopped to ask. My legs don't work well, I can't move. Don't worry about me, just go on, the old man said. I hesitated for a moment. A neighbor, who had already turned the corner ahead of me, came back upon hearing my exchange with the old man. Should we help you walk? He suggested. No need, just go away, the old man replied sharply, his eyes fierce, startled. I quickly continued downstairs. It wasn't until I reached the 3rd floor that my neighbor caught up, fiddling with his backpack zipper as we walked. I left him a bottle of water. Life and death are predestined, he said, his voice trembling slightly. Basement level 1. My neighbor pulled out his car keys, and an SUV parked close to the stairwell blinked twice. He hurried over, yanked open the driver's door, tossed his backpack onto the passenger seat, and started the car. V-room. As the engine turned on, the car slightly shook and a wave of gasoline fumes hit me, making my stomach churn. I get carsick easily, but at that moment, getting into the car was my only option, so I climbed into the back seat. The back seat of the SUV was spacious but had poor air quality, filled with the sour smell of fermenting fruit. Already nauseous from the gasoline fumes, this peculiar odor nearly made me vomit. Sorry, I forgot to take out a bag of fruit, he mentioned softly, probably noticing my discomfort in the rearview mirror. I searched and found a bag of spoiled fruit. After hesitating, I decided not to throw it out but instead tied the plastic bag tightly and tucked it into the corner. There wasn't much food, and I had to prepare for the worst. With the air conditioning on, the temperature inside the car gradually cooled, though still stuffy. It was no longer hot. Passers-by occasionally walked by and got into nearby cars, clearly having the same idea as my neighbor and me. People entering the basement saw that all the cars were occupied. Some turned back, presumably to fetch their keys, while others hesitated and then headed to the 2nd basement level. I saw a few property management staff hurriedly carrying boxes of bottled water through the stairwell. Thoughtful property management, I mused. Let me introduce myself. I'm Ziv. What's your name? The neighbor in the driver's seat asked. I'm Mary, I replied, hesitating to use my real name and neatly folding the damp blanket on my lap. That's fine, he responded, and then we both fell silent, quietly enjoying the cooling temperature inside the car. In this natural disaster, it was hard to know when it would end. The atmosphere was as heavy as the air, with only the hum of the car's air conditioning filling the silence. After a while, he turned on the car radio. Attention, it is reported that the extreme heat will continue for another week. Residents are advised to avoid going outdoors. As soon as it was turned on, unfortunate news began to broadcast. I sighed, silently contemplating whether the water and bread in my backpack would be sufficient. I regretted bringing the duck. I could have packed more food and water instead. Attention, temperatures near Greenland have soared to almost 70 degrees Fahrenheit, causing glaciers to melt. Attention, global extreme weather events. Half the planet is turning red. Attention, scientists predict that in the next 10 years, the maximum temperatures could rise even further. Ziv flipped through a few channels, then turned off the radio, feeling that continuing to listen was pointless as the news only made him more anxious. It's all because of you. I said we should take Xiaoming to my mother's place in the mountains for the summer break, but you refused. Now look at us, we're almost like refugees. A voice complained from outside. A couple with a young girl passed by our car and got into the vehicle next to us. Because our SUV was parked close to the stairwell, more and more people hurried past our car. Elderly, children, mostly families. I watched them in silence, my heart pounding as the overhead light flickered a few times. The elevators had stopped working. Where was the parking lot's light getting its power from? It seemed like the air systems were off, only the lights were on. As I was pondering this, Ziv suddenly slammed his fist on the steering wheel, cursing loudly. I tensed up, flashbacks of my past relationship, where my ex-husband's fists were covered in my blood, involuntarily crossed my mind. Mary, I was wrong, we need to go back upstairs. Ziv turned to look at me, his expression frozen. Are you okay? He asked cautiously. I wiped the sweat from my face, trying to calm myself down. I'm fine. What did you just say? Drink some water first. He handed me a bottle of water. I didn't take it, fighting the urge to retreat, and instead took out a bottle of mineral water from my bag and drank half of it to soothe my heartbeat. Mary, we shouldn't have come downstairs. There are too many cars, and it might get very hot and dangerous here soon, Ziv said, putting his water back into his bag. You mean? I realized something too and quickly looked around. Anyone with a car seemed to have the same idea, to use it as a refuge from the heat. 8 out of 10 cars around us were already running, and more people were getting into empty cars. Car exhaust could cause the temperature to rise and increase carbon monoxide levels. We need to go back upstairs. Ziv looked at me. I massaged my temples. Going downstairs was easy, but going back up to the 16th floor would be a challenge. This is life-threatening. If you don't want to go upstairs, you can stay in my car. As long as you don't step out, it should be safe. But, Ziv hesitated. Once the fuel ran out, I would still need to leave the car to breathe. By then, not only would I have to endure the scorching heat, but I might also suffer from carbon monoxide poisoning. I'll go upstairs. After weighing the options, I made my decision. We both silently checked our backpacks, shouldered them, and opened the car door. In the neighboring car, a little girl was peering out at me through the window. I couldn't help but knock on their window. What are you doing? The wife picked up the child, looking defensive. There are too many cars here. Carbon monoxide might exceed safe levels. I suggest you go back home, I said loudly and walked away, not caring if she understood or not. I quickly followed Ziv's steps. We were the closest ones around, and I had fulfilled my duty to warn others. There was no need to play the saint. By the time we reached the 5th floor, the old man was nowhere to be seen. Only an empty mineral water bottle lay on the ground. Continuing upwards, the staircase was crowded with people descending. Seeing us ascend, many cast puzzled glances our way, though some, like us, were also heading up, resting on different floors, likely thinking along the same lines as us. On the 10th floor, we ran into someone we knew, Bob from the property management. Are you going back to get some things? He was panting as he came down from above, a backpack on his shoulders just like ours, and looked surprised to see us. We're going home, not planning to come back down. You'd better warn the people in the parking lot to be careful of carbon monoxide poisoning, Ziv replied. Bob paused, muttered something under his breath, then suddenly leaned close to Ziv and whispered a few words. I saw Ziv's expression change from confusion to surprise, and then to shock. Are you serious? Good luck to us all. Bob patted Ziv on the shoulder and hurriedly left. What did he say? I asked. Ziv turned to me, his face grave. sweat dripping heavily from his forehead. "Mary, I'm not sure if my judgment is correct anymore. It's your call, whether to go up home or down to the car. Bob just said that the property's thermometer shows it's not 48 degrees outside, it's 56 degrees. What does 56 degrees mean? The coronavirus can only survive for 30 minutes at 56 degrees. And people, we were both breathing heavily, our breaths filling the tiny space. The surrounding temperature was rising. Each breath felt like being in a sauna room, a mass of heat, a mass of discomfort. 56 degrees, 56 degrees, 56. Hasn't India been hitting 55 degrees for years? I couldn't help but argue. The number was so shocking. I suspected Ziv might have heard wrong. It could be 46 degrees. Which was already frightening. How could it suddenly rise to 56 degrees? Ziv looked stern. "So, what's your plan? Going home or to the car? Do you want to go home or to the car?" I threw the question back to him, leaning on my knees and gasping for air. The high temperature made the air thin, and having climbed so many floors, I felt like I was about to combust. Ziv didn't answer but opened a bottle of water, drank half, and poured the rest over his head. His face turned red from the heat, and his dark circles vanished. I took out the last bottle of water from my bag, drank half, and poured the rest on my head. The mineral water, which was close to thawing 80% of a duck, felt slightly icy, refreshing me a bit, allowing me to use what little brain cells I had left, heated away. To think, it was around 4:30 in the afternoon, at least an hour and a half before sunset. Without air conditioning, the temperature difference between indoors and outdoors is generally 3 to 5 degrees, meaning if I went home, I would likely be subjected to temperatures above 50 degrees, but if I went back to the car, suddenly, I heard the crisp sound of glass shattering. The high temperature had caused the metal window frame to deform. The glass shattered suddenly. A wave of even more intense heat rushed in. "We have to go now. I choose to go home." "You do as you wish," Ziv said anxiously, bolting up the stairs. Without thinking, I quickly followed him. The effects of the high temperature were more severe than anticipated. As soon as we moved, we could hear the constant sound of glass shattering, some even falling from the window frames, leaving the ground covered in pieces. By the 13th floor, I was exhausted like a dog, panting with my tongue out, my legs stiff against the scalding handrail, barely able to move. Ziv turned back, grabbed me, and dragged me upward. It was hot. The high temperature seemed to take physical form, turning into a fire dragon that relentlessly pursued us, spitting out breaths of 1,000-degree heat, ready to reduce us to ashes at any moment. 14th floor, 15th floor. It was too hot. The sweat that dripped from my body evaporated as soon as it hit the ground. On the final floor, I was practically crawling, my palms scalded by the floor, yet I screamed in pain, my throat hurting too much to make a sound. "We need to get inside quickly." Ziv fumbled for his keys in a panic but couldn't find them. I grabbed the hem of his shirt from behind and pointed at my door. "The code is 0726. Ding. Welcome home." Fortunately, the keypad lock hadn't melted. We tumbled inside, greedily breathing in the slight coolness that remained. "What a huge freezer," I heard Ziv's voice, surprised and relieved. Coming home was the right choice. I had stored so much ice, fearing a water outage, and filled the bathtub with plenty of water. We should be fine for the remaining hour or so. Moments later, I lay in the bathtub water, floating among a few chickens. Ziv sat on the toilet lid, his heels soaking in a basin of water along with a duck, another basin on his thighs, his hands clutching a duck for coolness. The bathroom was filled with frozen chickens and ducks. The scene was somewhat comical but effective. At least the temperature had dropped to a bearable range. "You really have a knack for this. Did you stock up all this meat in the freezer fearing a zombie outbreak?" Ziv teased, playing with a duck in the water. "I'd rather it was a zombie outbreak. At least then I could hide at home for a few months without fearing being cooked alive," I responded coldly, gazing out the window. This window, being smaller and in the shade, hadn't cracked. The illusion of a gilded city outside seemed unreal. "If this is a dream, I hope to wake up soon." 2 hours later, the sun finally set. The city's rooftops lost their golden sheen as darkness gradually enveloped the earth. After another hour or so, looking out the window, I could see candlelight in some of the buildings. It seemed many had chosen to remain in their homes. Ziv opened the bathroom door and stepped out, taking a deep breath and exhaling slowly. "It's finally cooling down," He didn't need to say it. I knew it was cooler because I actually felt cold soaking in the tub. I stood up from the bathtub, wanting to tidy up my disheveled appearance, but as soon as my feet hit the floor, I suddenly felt dizzy. This was bad. The next second, my eyes shut automatically, and I lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I was greeted by the ceiling fan light in the living room. I was lying on the living room floor, and to my surprise, there was a hint of light outside. Had I been unconscious all night, awake, Ziv handed me a bottle of drink, 1 piece of good news and 3 pieces of bad news. Which do you want to hear first? The good one. I was startled by my own hoarse voice and quickly took a sip of the drink. Ziv nodded. The good news is you're still alive. And the bad news? I asked, taking another sip. The drink was room temperature but very refreshing. After drinking some, I felt energized. Sitting up, I stretched my limbs, feeling like I had narrowly escaped a disaster. The bad news is the water stopped last night. There's still no electricity, and there's no cell signal either. A triple threat. I fell silent. If today was as hot as yesterday, it would be even more unbearable. Also, another piece of good news. The radio function on my phone still works. We can listen to the news until the battery runs out. I have 1% left. Ziv smiled and turned on the radio. ZZZ. This is China National Radio. China National Radio. China National Radio. We urge all citizens to stay indoors during the day, stay hydrated, and avoid going out while waiting for rescue. The extreme heat has affected 9 provinces nationwide, with temperatures possibly reaching 60 degrees. ZZZZ. The phone died, automatically shutting off. I numbly watched him. Temperatures up to 60 degrees. That number made me wonder if I was living on a flame-engulfed mountain. Got a power bank, darling. Ziv still managed a joke. I walked into the study and pulled out 2 power banks from a drawer. Just as I was about to bring them to him, a light bulb went off in my head. Power banks. Charging. Ziv, come help me with something. I dragged a chair and placed it under the bookshelf. What's up? Grab that package from the top. The square one. This one. It's kind of heavy. Be careful. Ziv climbed the chair and brought down the package. Yes, that's the one. I was thrilled, carefully placing the box on the floor. What is this? Ziv asked. A home solar charging kit. What? A home solar charging kit I bought a while ago but never opened. 06. I really amaze myself sometimes. Over the past few years, I've moved up to the management level in my company and made quite a bit of money, leading me to buy all sorts of things out of curiosity or perceived usefulness. If I remember correctly, I bought this solar charging kit a year and a half ago. I had initially planned to get an RV for traveling, but the lack of parking spaces deterred me, although I had already bought plenty of outdoor survival gear. Sis, you're incredible, having such a great thing. Ziv got excited too and quickly helped me unpack it and set it up according to the manual. Half an hour later, just before the sun rose, we placed the solar charging panels on the bedroom bay window, drew the curtains, and dragged an ice chest into the bedroom, filling it with small fans. As the sun slowly rose, golden light once again covered the earth. As the temperature climbed, Ziv glanced at me. I nodded, and he decisively pressed the switch. The hum of the electrical appliance starting up and the sound of a small fan kicking into action was music to our ears. When I had bought the freezer, I opted for a lower power model since I didn't need a quick freeze function. I figured it wouldn't be a problem to maintain its functionality as long as the solar panels were effective. Now, the freezer was full of drinks and bottled water, some of which were mine, and some Ziv had brought over from his place. He mentioned he was a game streamer who often didn't leave his house for weeks, so he had a good stock of supplies at home. We took inventory of all our food. All the ice cream had melted and was too messy to deal with, so I threw it out. Originally, the freezer contained 6 chickens, 3 ducks, half a pig, about 5 kilograms of beef steaks, along with 2 fish and a bag of shrimp. Given the weather, it was hard to keep the meat fresh, so we decided to spread it all out on the balcony floor before it started to rot, hoping the day's high temperatures might dry it into jerky, making it easier to preserve. The leafy vegetables had nearly spoiled after last night's heat, emitting an unpleasant odor. We didn't dare eat them as getting sick would be a serious setback. We left them on the balcony too, sprinkled with some salt, hoping to dry them into dried vegetables. There were also eggs, which I wrapped in clothes and placed on the balcony shelf, hoping they would cook in The sun, while checking the snacks, I found that 2 bags of potato chips had popped open and were baked hard and crispy. I collected all the snacks from the floor into a bag, moved the intact packs along with other snacks, cookies, and bread into the bedroom. The canned goods and rice were left in the kitchen cabinets for now. Then there was a bag of apples, still fresh. We decided to eat them quickly. They would be our food for the next few days. Big sis, you really are resourceful, keeping all this food stashed at home, Ziv commented. I shuddered. Don't call me Big Sis, just use my name, Mary. Big Sis, shut it, or I'll kick you out. I left the bedroom and seized the opportunity to move some books from the study into the bedroom while the temperature was still bearable. These books had been unopened since I bought them, and with the disaster weather preventing us from going out or using electronic devices, they were perfect for passing time. Ziv wisely didn't bother me further. He went out, returned with a few books of his own, and settled down in a corner with a chair. As time passed, the temperature gradually increased. We cracked open the freezer door slightly and positioned the fan to oscillate back and forth. As the temperature rose further, we opened the freezer door wider to keep the room within a tolerable range, continually drinking water to replenish the fluids we were losing. Even with this makeshift cooling system, by the afternoon, we were both drenched in sweat, our books dampened by it. The idea of keeping cool by staying calm simply didn't apply in the face of extreme heat. Fortunately, we managed to get through it. Today's highest temperature reached 58 degrees, and the hot weather is expected to continue. In the evening, we charged our phones and turned on the radio, feeling a bit anxious about the situation. Without the life-saving solar charging equipment, Ziv and I really wouldn't know how we would have managed. After dark, we used our phone flashlights for lighting and brought all the meat back inside from the balcony. We almost slipped on the way out due to the grease that had cooked out of the meat. The aroma of the meat was so strong that it couldn't be contained. Initially, I was somewhat worried that it might attract people with ulterior motives. I was cautious for several days, unable to sleep well at night, but fortunately, no one else showed up. Ziv would go back to his own house to sleep every night and only come over during the day, starting from the second day. He brought over a pile of board games along with the books we had, which helped us pass quite a bit of time. We ate sun-dried barbecue every day, occasionally snacking on some chips, accompanied by drinks from the fridge. After getting used to the high temperatures, there were moments when I felt as if time stood still in peace, but I knew that was an illusion, because with each passing day of the heat wave, there were fewer lights from candles in the building opposite us at night. One night, a week later, I was asleep, dreaming about exchanging intelligence with a rival company. The rival won, but I felt no regret. I even applauded as they set off celebratory cannons. Bang! The sound of an explosion woke me up. I sat up abruptly, looking out the window, only to realize it wasn't celebratory cannons but an explosion in the building across, where flames split the night. Lately, I had been hearing explosions and seen fires and smoke at night, but they were always far from me. This was the closest one yet. Bang! Another loud noise, the windows trembling. I screamed, rolled out of bed, and rushed out, only to find myself holding Ziv's waist, trembling uncontrollably. It's okay, it's just the building across, the fire won't reach us. He reached out stiffly and stroked my hair. I shivered and pushed him away sharply. Mary, don't come near. I'm fine, just fine. I bit my lip, retreated back to the bedroom, and quickly closed the door. The fire in the building across had fully engulfed it now, as if I could hear the crackling and screams. Mary, are you okay? Ziv knocked on the door. I crouched down, hugged my knees, and covered my ears. The pounding in my head mixed with Ziv's knocks assaulted me like raindrops. I'm fine, just go back, I screamed. Mary, I'm right here outside. Don't worry, it'll be fine, just calm down. Ziv seemed to say this as the knocking stopped. I couldn't hear clearly, just crouched there, watching through the window as the fire in the building across grew larger. People ran out of the flames, plunging straight down like birds without wings. Someone appeared at a window, frantically waving a flashlight for help. Others threw water from higher floors, but it was no use. The fire just grew bigger and bigger, bigger and bigger, until it enveloped the entire building. The fire blazed into the sky, ironically, while the building across turned into a fiery hell. The temperature here, less than 100 meters away, hardly rose. God, if This is truly the apocalypse. Please let me find release soon. Holding my knees, I watched with open eyes until the dawn. The fire burned all night long and hadn't completely died down by dawn. Knock, knock, knock. Someone was knocking at the bedroom door. I suddenly fell to the floor, only then realizing that my legs had gone numb. Mary, it's me, Ziv. Can you check if it's raining outside? He asked, though Ziv called it rain. It was really just a few sporadic drops that would have gone unnoticed and nearly evaporated before even hitting the ground. Half an hour later, I looked down from the balcony. The ground was still golden yellow, the sun had risen, and the temperature was climbing as usual. It's artificial rain from the neighboring city. We got a bit of it, Ziv said, standing behind me with his phone in hand, though this slight drizzle was hardly useful. The fact that there was artificial rain meant that the higher-ups were still operational. If we just kept going, a cooler day would eventually come. We can't lose faith in survival. I've brought over 2 more boxes of water. The extreme heat won't last much longer. It should be over soon, Ziv remarked as he carried the water to the bedroom door. Seeing that I had no objections, he proceeded to bring them inside. His cautious glance was unmistakable. What a mess. I might have scared him last night. Several spots in the building across were rekindling, sending up billows of thick smoke that obscured part of the sky. Sunlight filtered through the dark haze, casting sharp, blood-red spears surrounded by a halo of orange, ominous and threatening. Faced with such a scene, both of us were somewhat distracted, forgetting what cards had been played and eventually giving up on the game altogether, each picking up a book instead. Later, I went to the bathroom and found that the water in the bathtub, which we used to flush the toilet, was nearly gone, and the basin and buckets were all empty. In recent days, to conserve water, we had an unspoken agreement to only flush the toilet after major use, and for bathing, we simply wiped down with a damp towel. However, the prolonged duration and high temperatures hastened evaporation. There's not much water left for the toilet. Let's flush just once a day from now on, I suggested to Ziv as I stepped out of the bathroom. Ziv gave a wry smile upon hearing this but didn't object. We both knew it was an inevitable decision. Fortunately, 3 nights later, we finally got a substantial rainfall. It was another instance of artificial rain, but this time it was directly above our city, and the suburbs received a significant amount too. The sound of rain beating against the windows woke me up abruptly, and Ziv knocked on my door, barely able to contain his excitement. We hurriedly placed every available container on the balcony to catch as much rainwater as possible and grabbed towels to seize the moment for a thorough wash. Ziv stripped off his shirt, revealing a young body with even muscles, though slightly thinner, and he cheered in the rain. Throwing modesty aside, I turned away from Ziv and let the rain wash away the stickiness on my skin, reveling in the raindrops hitting my face, feeling utterly refreshed. Laughter echoed from above and below. Clearly many others in the building were also persevering. Half an hour later, the rain stopped. It came quickly and left just as swiftly. The buckets were less than a third full, but the coolness and hope it brought were abundant. Ziv and I celebrated by opening 2 cans of yellow peach preserves. Treat it as a reward for yourself. There's still plenty of food left. The high temperatures have already lessened our appetites, and now we haven't even touched the half pig that was roasted. Only having eaten a few ducks and chickens, we've had no shortage of drinking water and beverages. I still haven't finished the drinks I stockpiled from the supermarket before the disaster struck. Just hang in there, we'll definitely get through this. Ding ding ding. I had just changed into clean clothes when another piece of good news arrived. My phone signal was restored, and a flood of text messages came in all at once. To ensure we didn't miss any updates from the outside world, we had an unspoken agreement to keep our phones fully charged every day. Even when there was no signal, I picked up my phone and briefly glanced at the messages. Most were safety alerts and high-temperature warnings, and some were messages from the authorities about shelters. Hello, Mom. Ziv had already connected a call to his family. Ah, what an unfilial daughter I am. Falling behind, I hurriedly dialed my mom's number, only to find her phone turned off, out of battery. I dialed our home landline. Beep, 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 a rapid busy signal. Why is this happening? I tried my dad's cell phone number, but couldn't get through, and then I tried my uncle's and other relatives' numbers, calling each one by one. I'm okay here, really, we have enough water and food, just take care of yourselves and don't. Ziv was on the phone, and his voice faltered as he turned to me. Mom, just stay put until the temperature drops. listen to the authorities, and I'll come to see you once things normalize. My friend needs to use my phone to call home. I have to hang up now." He spoke a few more words and then hung up, passing the phone to me. "Try using mine." I didn't refuse and took it from him. First dialing that all too familiar number of my mom's. Turned off, still turned off. They might be experiencing a power outage in their area. Seeing that I couldn't get through to anyone, Ziv tried to console me. They're over 60 years old now. I clutched the two phones, continuing to dial, and just when I was about to lose hope, a cousin I hadn't contacted for many years answered the phone. Hello, it's Mary." "Who, cousin?" "It's Mary, your aunt's daughter. Do you know anything about my mom?" "I can't get in touch with them. I'm alone out here." I tried to remain calm as I spoke. "Oh, it's you? I don't know. Maybe try calling the shelter." Thankfully, my cousin was helpful and immediately sent me a list of local shelter phone numbers. I started calling immediately, but after checking 3 shelters, I could not find my parents' names. I wanted to continue searching, but then a standard automated voice came through my phone. "Hello, the number you are dialing is out of service area. Please try again later." I had a bad feeling about this and tried another number, only to get the same message. Looking at my phone, the signal was gone again. Signal lost. Hey, don't cry." Ziv awkwardly handed me a tissue, and I realized I was already in tears. "I can't get in touch with them, and they're getting older. It's so hot today. What should we do?" Although the mountains are much cooler than the city, such high temperatures spare no one, not even there. Coupled with the power and signal outages, I'm really worried something might happen to them. "Don't worry, they'll be fine. My parents are safe. They're in a shelter with air conditioning, food, and water. They're much more comfortable than we are." As Ziv spoke, he handed me several tissues. I took them and buried my face in the tissues, crying uncontrollably. I hadn't cried through all the hardships of these past days, nor when I was terrified by the fire in the building across. But when I couldn't reach my parents who were thousands of miles away, I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. I regretted being so willful, living so far away by myself, only going back to see them once a year. If I could do it over, I would stay by their side, never leaving. A pair of slightly stiff but warm arms gently embraced me from the side. I flinched slightly, my body trembling. "Don't be afraid. It's me, don't be scared. I won't hurt you. Your parents are probably just in a place where the signal hasn't been restored. They must be anxious to contact you too." The cell signal came back once. "It will definitely come back again. We need to be patient and wait a little longer." "Okay." Though the embrace was awkward and the words of comfort somewhat cliched, I gradually calmed down at the sound of his voice. "Okay, we'll wait a bit longer." However, in the following days, there was no good news, because the temperature soon rose again, even higher than before the artificial rain. "It's hot." I looked at the calendar on the wall. Starting from the first day I took off from work, it has been 23 days. During this time, the temperature has almost continuously risen, only dropping slightly on the day of the artificial rain but quickly soaring above 60 degrees Celsius. Yes, the Earth is almost exploding, or perhaps it's better to say, humans can no longer survive on the surface. Some people on Jihu might have it right. Humans are like a virus on the surface of the Earth, and now the Earth is having a fever, using a high temperature to kill off the virus. This is the end of humanity. What are you thinking about? Come help, it's falling." Ziv was carrying 2 boxes of mineral water past me. The bottles, deformed by the high heat, were twisted and one was about to fall out of the plastic bag. I quickly steadied it. I don't know how his family had stored so much mineral water. He had moved at least a dozen boxes these past days. I was wondering if the temperature will continue to rise. I helped him move the water into the bedroom, placing each bottle into the freezer. These past few hot days, I've practically wanted to crawl into the freezer myself, think positive, like maybe it will cool down today. It dropped by half a degree yesterday. Ziv pursed his lips somewhat cracked. "No matter how much water we drink, it's hard to withstand this kind of heat, and my lips aren't faring much better. Actually, there's a possibility that we're about to evolve with the heat. Haven't you noticed that none of us have suffered from heatstroke yet?" He closed the freezer door until only a crack was left, fanning himself vigorously with his shirt, his face red and sweaty. "I've come to realize that he's quite the gentleman, even on the hottest days." he never goes shirtless when I'm around, not even when it rained that day and we had to bathe. I've never had the genes for heatstroke. As a kid, I worked in the fields with my mom even when it was 104 degrees Fahrenheit. I just shrugged. Ziv turned to me with a hearty laugh, looking like a fool. You call that heatstroke genes? Coincidentally, no one in my family going back 3 generations has them either. I've never suffered from heatstroke. My personal record was playing basketball under a 102-degree sun, causing 3 opponents and 2 teammates to end up in the hospital with heatstroke. I was the one who called the ambulance. Wow, impressive. Cheers to that. I pulled out a drink and handed him one too. Our drinks were running low. Each one we drank was one less we had. But life has to go on, right? To good times. Ziv took it, and we happily cracked open the bottles, taking a big gulp. Refreshing, he sighed contentedly, then flopped down onto the floor. The drinks had been in the freezer overnight. Naturally they felt good, beneath the high temperatures. We needed the cool air from the freezer. It wasn't fully effective due to its low power, and the ice inside had already melted. It was about as cold as a refrigerator now, only getting a bit frosty at night. If we didn't drink now, even the slight chill would dissipate. I lay down next to him, staring at the glass lamp on the ceiling. The lamp was new, installed just before the disaster, and it shone brilliantly with even the faintest light. Suddenly, I thought I saw the lamp shake. Was it my imagination? I rubbed my eyes, but then the lamp began to shake more violently. It's an earthquake. Ziv sprang up, grabbing my arm and nearly dragging me off the floor. He threw me into the bathroom next to the bedroom and rushed in himself, looking around in panic. The bathroom stank because we hadn't flushed the toilet, but that was nothing compared to the terror brought by the earthquake. The quake struck without warning. They say prolonged drought can lead to seismic activity. I'd seen the theory online but never looked into it. After days of scorching heat, our fried brains hadn't thought of it. Caught off guard, the building tilted, steadied, then tilted again before shaking up and down like a giant snake passing underground. I screamed, clinging to the only person I could. Ziv, much taller, bent down and held me tightly, guiding me through the quake's jerks and jolts, as we occasionally hit the walls and nearly fell into the bathtub. When the earthquake finally stopped, all I could hear were our frantic heartbeats and ragged breathing. Like a seizure, the building didn't collapse, but the bathroom door was askew. I collapsed onto the floor. Ziv, leaning against the wall, walked out cursing. This was a true predicament. The earthquake had damaged our life-saving solar panels. Impossible to repair, as 2/3 were shattered and the electrical box had caught fire. It took a struggle to find the fire extinguisher and put out the fire, leaving the bedroom in shambles. After putting out the fire, we collapsed on the floor, exhausted. The sun above seemed to glare at us with malice. I could feel the fine hairs on my face curling and burning in the intense heat, sinking into my pores and causing bursts of pain. In a few hours, the high temperature would kill us. What was the temperature they announced on the radio yesterday? 62, or was it 66? After a while, I got up from the ground and started dragging out the water and drinks from the fridge. What are you doing? Stop talking and help me. I asked him to push the fridge away from the window and move it to the end of the bed. Then I threw all the drinks onto the bed. After that, I took off my shoes and stepped inside. It won't work. Soon when the temperature rises, you might suffocate in there. Not just me, but us. I waved him over. Unexpectedly, Ziv took a step back. I'm not going in. I'm claustrophobic. Don't worry about me. Just sit down. I'll keep the drinks cold for you. Maybe you'll make it through. His eyes flickered. What a lie. Claustrophobia. Yeah, right. I gestured for him to come over. Brother, in my life, I've had one failed marriage. I escaped it after being badly beaten. If you don't mind, come join me. I'm done hiding. I want to give myself a chance. I find that I quite like you. As I spoke, I saw Ziv's pupils dilate. You, he swallowed hard. I looked at him seriously, feeling the rising heat in the room, unsure if it was actually getting hotter or if it was just my face heating up. I said the boldest words of my life. Ziv, would you die with me, dying sooner or later? We all die, but individually. We cling to life and fear death. I hoped he would cling to life and fear death. Ziv turned his head, his face visibly turning the color of liver. My real name is Xavier. I'm 28 years old, a social media personality, not some game streamer, and I barely make ends meet. What a coincidence. You heard earlier, My name is actually Mary, I'm 31 years old, a salesperson at a software company, and I make enough money to support you. Would you like to be supported by me, little brother? Once a person's skin thickens, certain thresholds are crossed. At least I won that debate at the end of the world. No, Xavier, finally nodded solemnly at me, then rushed into the bathroom, collected the remaining water into a bucket, and poured it into the fridge. I tacitly opened a bottle of mineral water and poured all its contents into the fridge, filling about a quarter of it. The whole process took less than 5 minutes, but the surrounding temperature had reached a level where even breathing had to be cautious. As if a deep breath would inhale a fireball, I sat in the water, making room for Xavier. He threw a bunch of unopened drink bottles into the water and handed me a small fan that still had power. Before squeezing in himself, the fridge was large, but accommodating 2 adults was a bit of a squeeze, especially for Xavier. After sitting down, more than half of my head was still exposed outside. I shifted my position, moved next to him, and nestled into his embrace, allowing his knees to bend as he lay down in a cramped pose. The waterline hadn't risen above our waists. I reached out and pulled down the lid on top of the freezer, leaving just a small crack open. Achoo! The temperature inside the freezer was much lower than outside, and I sneezed. Are you okay? Xavier asked anxiously. I'm fine, Xavier. If we make it out of this, can I take you to meet my parents? I wrapped my arms around his waist and rested my face on his shoulder. As long as we survive, I'll bring my household registration book and we can get married on the spot. You said it, no backing out. I won't back out. But you have to do something for me, Xavier said. What is it? You need to meet my buddies. They all laugh at me for being a homebody who couldn't find a wife. And here I am, I've found one, and she's a beauty. They'll be jealous for sure. Xavier laughed. Despite the uncomfortable posture, the coolness was a rare relief, and it eased our minds considerably. Sure, as long as we survive, I'll even live stream our love. As long as we survive, anything is possible. The temperature began to rise, accompanied by aftershocks. I hoped it was just my imagination, please. No more earthquakes. This building wouldn't survive another severe shake. When it got too hot, I turned on a small fan. The buzzing noise replaced the sound of our heartbeats, and the slight circulation of air was our only source of life. We must survive. I don't know how long it was, but I eventually fell asleep. When I woke up, the first thing I saw was Xavier's face, his dark eye circles, gaunt cheeks, and messy stubble. He was sleeping, his eyelashes trembling slightly as if he was dreaming. Looking out from the freezer, the sky was still bright, but something seemed different. Sound, could it be? The sound of raindrops. I reached out from the crack in the freezer and found that the outside temperature wasn't very high. I boldly opened the freezer and stuck my head out. The rain was pitter-pattering against the shattered glass. I saw the sky was gray, with large drops of rain falling from above, some splashing into the room through the deformed window frame, forming puddles on the floor. It was raining. I pinched my face to feel the pain. It was really raining, Lou, Xavier, it's raining. We survived. We survived. I excitedly patted his face, trying to wake him. His skin was burning hot. Xavier, don't scare me. I touched his forehead and quickly climbed out of the freezer. Fortunately, I woke him up. It's raining. It's so cold. Yes, it's raining, and you have a fever. Come on, get out. I helped him up, but he slipped in the water, his head hitting the inside of the freezer with a loud bang that terrified me. Finally, I managed to drag him to the bed, and I hurriedly dried his body with a blanket and removed his shirt. After swapping out for a dry blanket, I wrapped it around him. It's so hot, he complained again, kicked off the blanket, turned over, and fell into a deep sleep, breathing rapidly. I stood by, feeling helpless, having never taken care of a sick person before. I didn't know what to do. Seeing him close his eyes, I quickly covered him back up with the blanket, leaving only his feet exposed, and then I walked out of the bedroom. I hadn't been to the living room since the earthquake. It was a complete mess. The television had fallen and crushed half of the coffee table. The display cabinet was leaning against the window of the living room balcony. The floor was littered with uneaten dried meat and vegetables, scattered everywhere. It was bearable, though. I found a pair of shoes and put them on, then carefully lifted the TV to retrieve the medicine box from the deformed drawer of the TV stand. Living alone, I had stocked up on some cold and anti-inflammatory medicines at home, but unfortunately, due to the previous pandemic, I hadn't been able to stock up on fever reducers. After hesitating for a moment, I took out an anti-inflammatory and some vitamins, went back to the bedside, and fed them to him with a drink. Thankfully, he was an easy patient, letting me fuss over him. After doing all this, I let him sleep and turned to pick up a bucket and basin from the floor, planning to collect some rainwater to save. Raindrops continuously pelted the windows, creating a dull, throbbing noise that mixed with distant rumbling sounds, sometimes loud, sometimes soft, like thunder. Carefully navigating through the clutter, I approached the balcony. Just as I was about to set down the bucket and basin, I looked up and saw a scene in the distance that made my eyes widen and my body stiffen. In the distance, a gigantic yellow dragon was rolling forward unstoppably, its white crest continuously surged, toppling skyscrapers and swallowing lower buildings whole. What I was hearing was not thunder, but the sound of a catastrophic flood collapsing buildings. This couldn't be possible. It had only just started raining. How could there be such a massive flood? This is inland, not a tsunami. Wait, if it were a tsunami, what about the coastal cities? My hometown, my parents, they're in a coastal city. The messages on the radio these past few days have become more and more formulaic. Are they hiding this? I dared not continue thinking, just stood there, watching the yellow dragon approach, stirring up thunderous roars. The buildings, weakened by the high temperatures and loosened by the earthquake, couldn't withstand the force of the flood and began to collapse. Only a few still stood, but they too swayed in the wind and rain, their collapse imminent. The ground beneath my feet started to shake. The flood was very close. My legs gave way, and I almost fell, but I managed to steady myself and returned to the bedroom. Xavier was still asleep, seemingly unaware of everything around him. I envied him a little. I climbed into bed, crawled under the blanket, and held him tightly. Xavier seemed to wake up from my movement, murmuring a few words, his head turning towards me. At least on the road to the underworld, I would have company. With a loud crash, like trucks colliding, the building suddenly shook. The few remaining pieces of glass shattered instantly with a series of loud crashes, bangs and clangs. The ornate glass lamp above plummeted directly onto the quilt. A piercing, sharp noise emanated from where the wardrobe met the wall, followed by the entire bed flipping over. I felt as though I had been flung out, hitting something, only to be yanked back fiercely by a hand. Opening my eyes, it was Xavier gripping my hand, his face a picture of shock, his mouth opening and closing, but his voice lost in the thunderous noise. I clutched his hand back, flung myself towards him, and finally made it back into his embrace. We held each other tightly, tumbling through the air, then falling. Bang! I lost consciousness. It might have been just for a moment, the ground still vibrating beneath me. When I came to, the building hadn't collapsed, just the outer walls were gone. We were wrapped in the quilt, Xavier's one arm around me, the other inside the quilt, and both my hands trapped underneath, immobilized. A toppled freezer lay on top of us, pressing us tightly together. From his eyes, I could tell we both looked a mess. 16th floor, he rasped out in a hoarse voice, followed by a few coughs. This building has 33 floors, and the 16th is right in the middle, the most seismic-resistant spot and the pivot of vibrations. It's also the highest point that the local fire department's ladders can reach. I wasn't sure if it was rainwater or water from the freezer that was slowly soaking us. My thighs felt cold. I wanted to look down, but he turned my chin and kissed me. Survive, Mary. His sudden kiss startled me. We both need to survive. I still want to meet your parents with you, get married to you. You need to video call my brothers. Let me show off my girlfriend, my wife. He kissed me again and buried his head in the crook of my shoulder. Xavier, can you get up? I asked him. I can't, I'm stuck. His voice was muffled, and after a few seconds, he added, I regret so much. What do you regret? I asked. He murmured softly, I knew the moment I first saw you opened the door and fell in love at first sight. I should have just rushed over and declared my love. I was too timid, and now I'm about to die a virgin. I almost laughed out loud, the shaking of my body causing a stifling pain in my chest. We were really pressed tightly together. I was nearly suffocating. Brother, if you had declared your love then, I would have moved out the next day. Maybe that would have been better. You might have survived. He quickly replied. I fell silent for a moment, then tried to move my hands, feeling a sharp pain. I had regrets too. if in those last few seconds I hadn't gone back to the bedroom but stayed on the balcony, I might have been cleanly thrown out to die by drowning, crashing, or being smashed by the waves. Instead of pretending to be calm here, waiting for death to come, the water inside the room was rising, the flood outside finally seeping in, floating beneath my forehead. "Don't move, I'll try to see if I can crawl out," I said. Secretly gathering my strength, twisting my body, I realized it wasn't as tightly stuck as I thought. As I began to move, there was some space, enduring the intense pain of friction against something unknown with my arms. I stretched one hand out from beneath me, and the pressure suddenly decreased. A drop of sweat from Xavier fell onto my face as he propped up his body with one arm, coordinating with my movements. I slowly crawled out, wriggling in the water, and finally freed my other hand, using both hands. I wriggled out from underneath him. With a thud, Xavier collapsed into the water. "Are you okay?" I quickly called out to him. Only after crawling out did I realize the water on the ground was all red. "I won't die." He also crawled out, wiping the water from his face. I noticed his other hand was twisted behind his back, likely broken, and a sharp piece of glass was sticking into his left ankle, but I was in no better shape. A deep cut on the back of my right leg was still bleeding. The water level inside the room had risen noticeably, almost reaching my ankles. Many people claim they aren't afraid of death, but the desire for life often peaks just before death. We exchanged a look and, understanding each other, we hopped out, passing by a collapsed wall next to the security door and jumping onto the rebar exposing stairs. Survival was only possible by going upwards. Adrenaline helped us struggle up 2 floors, until we finally collapsed in the 18th floor hallway. Xavier gasped for air and reached out to pull up my clothes. I shivered. "What are you doing?" Could it be he wanted one last fling before dying? I didn't have the energy for that. "Your thigh needs to be bandaged. Take off your clothes to tie around it," he said. "Why not take off yours?" "Because I'm afraid of the pain," he replied, nodding towards his twisted arms still held behind his back. After a moment, I untied my shoelaces and tightly bound them a few centimeters above the wound. The blood was still flowing, but less so, probably nearing depletion. Blood loss made me dizzy and cold all over. "Forget it, let me jump out from there." While I still had the strength, I pointed to a window in the hallway, its frame gone, where the wind was continuously howling. "No, I have to die before you, otherwise it'll sound terrible if it gets out." Xavier crawled up, limped to the window, and then looked outside, starting to cry. "Why cry? We've managed to survive this long, longer than many others. Maybe we won't even have to queue in the underworld." I joked with him. He turned his head and wiped his face. "Wife, come and see God." "I'm an atheist," I said weakly. "No, you have to come. It's incredibly beautiful." Xavier hopped over, trying to pull me up from the ground. I didn't want to pull him down, so I had to struggle to my feet. Both of us, crippled and gasping, supported each other and leaned towards the window. The wind blew through my damp bangs. I looked outside, wondering if I could see the same illusion as him, when suddenly my eyes widened. Tears welled up in the corners of my eyes. Tears fell from my eyes. I saw a flag, red with 5 stars on it, a large one surrounded by 4 smaller ones. There was also a blue-gray ship, and a small black boat cutting through the waves, carrying the most beloved people.